3, 2, 1. And we are live. Alright guys, welcome back to the live stream. Yes, today, finally, we're streaming again. It has been, I believe, 2 months again. I wanted to stream once every Sunday. Obviously, that did not work out. However, we are back, and today not only with a regular live stream, but today we're going to have a guest on, Lord Bear. Many of you know him already. I'm going to bring him over in a minute or so, guys. But first, as always, we need to do the sound check over here. Boomer Bobby is still working out the technology. Please let me know if the mic sounds alright. And if you can hear some background noise as well. Because after all, yes, I'm still in Thailand. And in Thailand, right now, we have 35 degrees Celsius, that is. So super, super hot. And without the AC, I cannot do this stream. It's virtually impossible. I would be just sweating over my mic here. So please let me know in the chat if everything sounds fine or if there's too much background noise. I'm going to try to adjust this if the mic is loud enough, etc., etc. Okay, let me know. And of course, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. You know my intro is alright, guys, and it will stay like that, I assume. But, of course, Assalamu alaikum, everybody. No background noise. Fantastic, that's great. Sounds good, sounds good, sounds good. Phenomenal. That's amazing. So we're not going to waste too much time here. I'm going to invite Lord Bear over. I forgot to ask him offline if we can call him by his regular name as well. I'm going to ask him when he's here. Otherwise, we're going to stick with Lord Bear. And before we get started as well, see, that happens when you're not streaming regularly. You have to get back into it. Super chats, Streamlabs donations. Thank you so much, guys. I already saw some people donated over here. Thank you so much for that. Let me just double check who it was. And if you have any questions for our guest, first and foremost today, of course, but for me as well, please send them via Streamlabs donation or Super Chat, because like that, we will be able to respond. Look at this. The stream didn't even start yet, truly, and we're already at 400 viewers, right? So therefore, it is impossible for us to see all of your chats. It's simply not feasible to go through all of them. And therefore, if you want your questions answered for sure, send a super chat and we can answer them. Okay. That being said, let me read it out. Apip Kamil, 160,000 rupiah. Thank you so much, brother. Says, Assalamu alaikum. May Allah bless you all. Alaikum salam. May Allah bless you too, my friend. Okay. So much for that. Let me send Lord Bear the link. And then we're going to get started. Let's get it. Here we go. Should get it now, bro. Okay. Just 1 second, guys. As long as I'm fiddling around here. We're going to get started anytime soon now. Don't you worry, don't you worry. Okay. And have you seen the new function here as well? The chat has a little hard box. Yeah, let me tune this down. What we're gonna do is we're gonna turn off the alert box for now. Where is it? Here. Yep. Just 1 second. Okay, let me turn off the alert box so we don't get interrupted by the super chats. But I'm going to see them all. Don't you worry, guys. Don't you worry. I'm going to see them all. And we're going to read them out all today, inshallah. Okay? Fantastic. Alright, getting adjusted here. There he is. Admit. There we go. Let me switch it.
Salam, brother.
Alaikum salam, brother. Fantastic. Guys, can you see him? I think so, right? Let me just fiddle around with the camera one more time and then it should be all up and running. 1 second. Here we go. No, that's better. So we can see you. You have a lot of tattoos, man.
I do indeed. I do indeed. It's interesting. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get rid of them or not. I think my plan is going to be the ones that I can't conceal. I'm going to get rid of. But there's also a part of me which wants to keep the ones I can conceal because I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who were in my situation who look towards Islam, and I feel like they have tattoos or they had a more haram life previously. If I keep some, they will know that they will be accepted, and that's kind of my thinking behind it. But I think the ones that I can't conceal, like on my neck and my hand, I'm probably going to get rid of them
Yeah,
just because it's when I go into a mosque and that, I don't want kids to see it, which is my overarching concern. And going into a mosque wearing turtlenecks and things like that, it gets quite hot and not pleasant. So we'll
yeah.
see how it goes, inshallah.
I totally understand because yeah, for people watching, I have some tattoos myself. You can't really see them because of the green screen here, but I
Yeah, yeah,
started, but I started lasering my hand as well. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Did you get yours removed?
yeah, I'm at it, but it takes a lot of time, and it has been already 10 sessions or so, and I will still need at least five.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, there you go. It's an interesting one. Again, for me, the good thing I like about Islam and especially Sharia law, since I've been looking into it, is the distinction between public and private. So the idea is that if you want to do, I'm very cautious of trigger words, by the way, so I'll monitor my language. But
thank you.
say that there's the situation nowadays with like the rainbow side of things, and if you want to do that in private, it's between you and Allah. But if you want to take it public and promote it to people, it has to be met with enforcement. And I
Exactly.
don't like publicly having tattoos displayed because, again, I don't want to set a bad example. And because I've got quite a large following now, I think that's a critical thing. Is if you're a good enough example, you end up becoming a leader because people will just follow you.
Sure.
And I want I want to show people that you can sacrifice things for the greater good. I want to show people, set a good example for people who watch me. So, inshallah, we'll see how it goes. It's not the top of my priority list now, but I will probably take action on that in the future.
Sure, but what you said there makes a lot of sense as well, because like this, people will see that you're coming from a specific background, that you haven't been born into a Muslim family, and this resonates with much more people nowadays, especially in the West, of course, right? So people ask me as well right away if I will take an Arabic name now. I haven't taken a new Muslim name now, and maybe I will, but even if I would, it would be my secondary name, and I would still go by Bobby because it's much more relatable. If I call it Hamza's perspective, from now,
Yeah.
nobody could relate anymore. At least not my old following or people from the West. They would just think of me as your typical Muslim and that's it. They wouldn't think about my background. You know, I'm a person that went
Yeah.
through all kinds of different religions, so it's not that I've been born into Islam. And this journey, I believe, has much more value for the people, and the same with you, be it with the tattoos, be it with your upbringing in Scotland, etc.,
Hmm.
etc. But all of them being said, man, we didn't even do the intro yet. We already started talking. I wanted to give you a short intro here. Before I do this, let me just ask you, should I go by Lord Bear or by your regular name?
Just anything. I want to clarify with the Lord Bear thing. It's not a blasphemy thing. In the UK, if you own land, you're a landlord. So you're
Sure,
a
sure.
lord of the land, like lord and lady. It's just a different terminology. It's not
Mm,
like a blasphemy thing, etc. It's just it's an old joke because as soon as I bought land, I started going around telling everybody to call me Lord because you're a landlord. So that's just it. But any or it doesn't really bother me. Matthew or Lord Bear's fine.
that's hilarious. Actually, it reminds me of the Bible as well. Speaking of blasphemy and lordship, there is a passage in the Bible that says, Jesus Christ as your Lord and God that sent Jesus Christ, right? So there's a distinction between God and Lord even within the Bible. So within the biblical context, Lord has not necessarily been seen as a standalone for God, but it can be used as a title for, yeah, some master, some teacher, etc., as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think yeah, I totally get you. And I think the reason that that's come to light, I don't know why, because as soon as you mentioned that, it sprung the thoughts of the Trinity in my head, which I have no idea why that's gained so much traction. Because even when I was younger, like 10 years ago, it was always that Jesus was the Son of God. And
Hmm.
this whole Trinity thing, my theory behind the Trinity? I have a few theories regarding it, right? Because it makes no logical sense. And what I think happens is um, there's a group of men who want authority, they want power, they want influence, they want women, but they can't get them, right? So what they do then is they hide behind the church, they hide behind Jesus, and he with no sin cast the first stone. And because they believe they're already saved, they can just condemn. And they don't want to, they can't debate you because they're not intelligent. So they just create some straw man argument like the Trinity, so they can hammer away at you, because in the real world they wouldn't have the authority to do that. But if they can hide behind Jesus is God, I'm already saved, then they can do it. The second thing, and I want to hear your opinion on this, right? So I've been looking into the return of the Dajjal, and all the things that are prophesized are really coming true, and there's not much room for interpretation with them. And don't you think it would be convenient if you were Shaitan and the Dajjal was returning? Wouldn't it be convenient if you could convince the second largest religion in the world that God could take the form of man? Do you see where I'm coming from with this? If you could convince people that God could take the form of man, that would make the return of the Dajjal far easier, and people would be far more likely to accept him because they think that Allah, God, can take the form of man. I think it's a spell. It came out of nowhere. It makes no logical sense. It doesn't seem organic to me. But again, I'm fine with it because that's what pushed me away from Christianity, was that modus operandi. You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Sure. Actually, that is I would say, even common hold belief nowadays in the Muslim community. Many people already reflect upon that and see that the Christians are at the utmost danger of falling into exactly that trap, for the reason that you just mentioned. Because the Christians assume that God incarnates into human form as Jesus and performs wondrous, miracles, etc., etc. And therefore, yes, this is at the moment quite a big concern in the Muslim community, that the Christians, especially as America being a so-called Christian superpower, even though we do know that they are secularists, of course, but will fall exactly into that trap and promote the Dajjal. Absolutely. Still there?
Oh no, our connection's gone, I think.
No, that seems fine on my end.
And I think the connection went.
No, the stream is still running.
Still running.
Yeah.
So with regards to saying that America is it's perceived as a Christian superpower, right? I find that quite hilarious, and this is why the Trinity thing does kind of get under my skin to a degree, because of all you know, as two men, we can agree that there's a hierarchy of problems that need solved. And if you look at America, right, their whole financial system is based on usury. The divorce rates are 60%. The things that kids are getting taught in school are completely haram, and in my opinion, like, I would take physical force on that. But all they seem to do is like circle jerk around, was Jesus God, even though he said he prayed to God. It's just stupid. And then you look at the Christian superpower, right? Look at all the wars that occurred in the Middle East. The only reason that was because Muslims wouldn't accept sodomy, they wouldn't accept the rainbow, they wouldn't accept riba, they wouldn't accept fiat currency. These are all things that are outlawed in the Bible, yet they were so happy to get on a plane and a helicopter, fly over and bomb innocent people for no reason, bar prior to every single war that you look at in the past 50 years, and they're typically all in Muslim nations because they're the only ones who refuse it. Prior to the war, there was a state bank with no fiat currency and no riba. After it, there was a central bank with riba and fiat currency. That's all you need to know about these wars. So when these Christians in America talk about like theology and stuff, I go, yeah, theology is great. Okay, I understand that if you have an easy time and you're bored and you want to look into theology, it's a great endeavor to delve into. But the hierarchy of problems you have right now, debating whether Jesus was God, is not at the top of that list. Look at your society, and I say this a lot, and this is why I'm such a massive proponent of Sharia law. If you don't have a strong law backing your faith, you don't really have much of a faith, in my opinion, because your faith is beholden to the people in charge and whether they allow you to have that faith or not, you know? So like with the Christians, with what they believe, and if you read the Bible and the Quran, they're quite similar. And it just appears that one group of people follow their book and the other doesn't, you know? But again, you can have this faith and this theology, but if your divorce rate's through the roof and the women are doing a word that begins with A, where they get rid of their offspring, it doesn't matter because your whole society is crumbling around you. You have to make sure that there's a strong community and law backing your faith, or you don't have anything, you know. And you can see that in the West now. The West is pretty much Sodom and Gomorrah. When you read the Bible, it's pretty much Sodom and Gomorrah. And all they seem to want to do is debate with people like me or sit in my comment sections, because they can't do anything else. They've depraved themselves of everything to the point where all they can do is sit in comment sections and bicker. They can't build, they can't create,
Sure.
they can't defend themselves, they can't protect what they believe for, so they just condemn. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, you know. I'm not signing off on that at all.
That's why you mentioned the Islamic countries that have been invaded by the so-called Christian superpower. I want to make one thing very, very clear here, or at least as clear as I can here on YouTube without being demonetized and shunned forever, you know? I see the Christians much more as the victim, honestly. I see them as being absolutely deluded by, and now I have to censor myself, if you look at the military-industrial complex, who is funding that whole machinery, who is operating the whole financial system within the states, you will see that it's not the Christians per se, right? So if you look into those specific family trees, etc., that are funding the Americans, the Christians, I would say that it is up in their hands and it is their responsibility ultimately to do what they are after. The point is this: if you look at what has happened in the Middle East, and if you look at the ideology of Zionism, you will see that even though Zionism springs from a different group of people, the biggest supporters of Zionism, nevertheless, are Christian Americans. Right? So roughly 90% of Zionists are actually American Christians. And that's my whole hiccup here, because if I really reflect upon that, I come to the conclusion that the American Christians are being steered for totally misguided goals, and it goes against their own interest, of course. Even if you look into the whole movements that you just mentioned, be it the rainbow, be it feminism, be it veganism even, many of those movements have been funded by the exact same family tree yet again, be it people like George Soros or whatnot. So the question really becomes, who is the puppet here? And I would say that the Christian superpower in that sense, yes, it is powerful, of course. However, it is being steered by another group of interest yet again that I cannot mention here. And this is why it is so crucial and important for us, especially as former Christians, to unite the Muslims and the Christians for a common goal. Because otherwise, we are fighting each other and other people are laughing to the bank, so to speak. But anyways, all of that being said, brother, again, we didn't even do the intro properly. Let's just start with your story. Let's start with your upbringing, you as a kid, as a teenager in Scotland, and when you essentially found out about Islam, and how did you get into it?
Yeah, so I'll start with when how do I word this? I would say that I engaged in Haram, and that's obviously the lifestyle that you're given as a young Western guy, and because you're also so distracted with like sports and Netflix and all the free little goodies you get given as a person in the West, you don't really ever question what you're doing. But as I started to get older, I started to question it a lot, and I didn't. Nothing really sat well with me. And I said this to people I speak to. I think the reason that I found Islam so quickly, because I'd kind of exalted all the passions that I had. So I think a lot of the passions and the haram that you're fed when you're young, it's hedonism, it's being over-sexualized, it's all this stuff. And I think I kind of exalted all those very quickly. And I was saying this to someone else the other day, and I don't know why it bothered me and no one else. And I'm having a hard time not having like survivor's guilt, etc. But when I go to things like nightclubs and stuff, towards the end, I would say, or actually, to be honest with you, the whole time, I was 70% of the time I was engaging in that stuff, I didn't like it. There was something totally off. And now with the knowledge I have, I can see it plain as day. But it was like I was blinded by my sin. And as I got older, I started to kind of dig into what was actually going on. Because these things, like, I often use the Western lifestyle. It's kind of like Reba on your soul. So, and this is the way I'm looking at it, and I'm going to try to articulate this well because it's a thought I had, and it's kind of rewired how I think. That there's fruitful endeavors which I believe are granted to you by Allah, and there's sterile endeavors which I believe are given to you by Shaitan. So I'll give you an example. You can wait, sacrifice, and work hard, and you can have a fruitful life, and you can create a family, you can get married, you can be in love, all this stuff. But what I believe happens is Shaitan comes along and he will give you that without the sacrifice. Zina, and it's sterile. It leads to nowhere. But what also happens is he doesn't just, so the pleasure that would have came from having a family, he doesn't just take that and give it to you now. He puts interest on it. So if a young woman did that, she can take that pleasure she would have got, get it in the form of zina. However, there's interest on that. It's like riba. It's on your soul. So now in the future, she won't be able to have a family because men won't look at her the same way they once did. And my whole life was that sterile sort of haram lifestyle, and that bears no fruits. And I started to get confused and annoyed, and then I started to try speak to people, and this is where the Christian thing comes in as well. I didn't understand how nobody cared. It kind of felt like I was screaming in a vacuum. I really didn't. To this day, I'll bring up things that really annoy me, things like what kids are exposed to when they're young. And people will just gaslight you and gaslight you. And I went through a lot of that where people going, "You're crazy. Who cares? Just have fun, blah, 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 blah." And then I don't want to say anything, get you banned, etc. But there's groups of people who will purport this way of life. Even then, I think you do it to yourself. And I think when you give these people power and say they're doing it to you, you then give away your autonomy to make a change because you've in essence made them your god, right? But I looked into who was doing this. Why are they doing it? I realized they didn't do this because they wanted me to be happy. They did it so it's a control mechanism. And then it came clear as day once I started reading the Bible, etc. I went, okay, the Bible seems great, but none of it makes sense. The New Testament's written by a guy called Paul who met Jesus on the road to Damascus, even though Jesus said he wouldn't return, there'd be no apostles. And then he rewrote the whole Bible. King James wrote a Bible, even though he was one of the most sinful kings ever. So that got taken away. And then I looked into who were the only people that were fighting this way of life. All Muslim countries, and this is all the wars were as well, like we said. The people who were fighting this way of life were the people that had been demonized in my eyes as a youngster. Because I remember back when I was like 14, 15, I bought the whole Muslim propaganda thing, where, you know, the whole Muslim terrorist, that sort of stuff. And then I started looking into it and I went, no. The people who are trying to send me to war, put me in debt, turn my sons into castrated eunuchs and my wives, mothers and daughters into whores are the same people telling me that Islam is bad. And it was the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And then you read the Quran, one book makes complete sense. There's no lack of interpretation. Everything's easy to understand. How proactive Islam is, where like Christians are meant to have Lent, but they never do it. Islam, every year, Ramadan, 30 days, no compromise. I started looking into Sharia law. Sharia law was a big one for me because I love theology, and because I don't really do any haram more, I find myself really engaged in theology deeply. But I'm a huge proponent of the laws that a society governs itself by. And when I looked into Sharia, I realized if you applied every single thing Sharia law purports, all your problems would disappear overnight. And I often say this now after reading the Quran and looking into Sharia law and how Muslims operate. If I didn't take my Shahada, I would have seen myself as a liar. Because how can I see something so clear as day and then refuse it, you know? And it's interesting because it's only been a month and a half, and I say this a lot to people who I speak to in private. I couldn't imagine my life without it. I genuinely couldn't imagine a life without Islam because I don't see any other way of life bearing any fruits at all anymore, you know? So, you know, mashallah, it's fantastic. I feel great. And I'm very glad I found it at this age as well.
Lord Bear, you still with us? Cutting off there.
What connection's gone?
Oh, yeah, you're back again.
Are we still connected?
We are going well, yeah. I think it's on your end, but you're back again. That's fine. Proceed.
That's fine. So there's loads of opportunities nowadays, right? So there's the idea of Newton's third law, which is every action has an equal and opposite reaction. There's unlimited haram in the world now. I think that's the problem people are facing, is that everywhere you go, there's haram publicly. And again, Sharia law would solve that. But the opposite reaction to that is there's now unlimited opportunity for people. There's no generation in human history where I could have discovered Islam the way I did and be speaking to someone like you, sharing my message with hundreds of thousands of people. And I realized that, like, if you want to do great things and help your community and be an example, be a leader, you have to cut the weights off that are stopping you from flying. And to have discovered Islam at this young age, that stops me from engaging in hedonism. It stops me engaging in zina, which would distract me. I understand riba and how finances work. I understand that a lot of the thoughts in my head I think are mine aren't, and that they're granted to me by Allah. A lot of the things I do that I would have once thought in a prideful sense was my own good doing, it really isn't. And it's all, mashallah, Allah has willed it. And to have that at such a young age, it's now clipped all the weights that were stopping me from flying. And now I feel like, because again, I always think the only person that can stop you is yourself. Even with all the haram in the world, no one can make you do it. You have to do it to yourself. No one can make you take the loan for riba. No one can make you fornicate. No one puts a gun to your head and forces you to go into the nightclub. You have to do it to yourself. And to understand that now, I now feel like I have unlimited energy, unlimited power to go at a young age. Is such a blessing in my opinion, because I really don't think I would have been able to do it without it, because I would have just got distracted or engaged in haram. I've been blinded by my sin and not as done as much as I feel like I could have had I have not been. So it's fantastic.
It is.
But again, this is a credit to all Muslims out there.
Let me just intersect real quick there, because I find it so extremely fascinating that you have found it at such a young age. Because what you described there with this fruitful endeavor, so to speak, right? Certain pursuits are fruitful, other ones are sterile, you said. What you described there is essentially the pleasure trap. You're describing this instant gratification, right, that is pursued by pretty much everybody nowadays. So back in the day, we needed to hunt for our food. Then later on, we domesticated animals. When that wasn't enough, we opened up restaurants, we opened up butcher shops, etc., right? And now we're here, we're watching Netflix, we're ordering on Uber Eats. And even that is not enough, right? It takes too long. So the thing is that we are watching a progression and we don't know where this will end. I mean, Uber Eats already seems extremely comfortable, but the trend is to become even more comfortable, right? And so the end scenario, you can only imagine, could be a Matrix scenario where we're sitting there infused with nutrients and we are watching VR porn for the rest of our life, right? And everybody's cumin 360 degree. Anyways, the point of the story is, of course, that for me, it is absolutely fascinating that you identified that in such a young age, because when I look back at my 20s, I wasn't there at all. I wasn't so self-reflective as you are right now. When I was thinking about gratification, I thought that is all we got. I was very hedonistic in my 20s because I was presented with a life that you just had two options essentially. Either stay and do a regular job or break out of it and do essentially what is nowadays pursued as the red pill. Back then we didn't call it the red pill, we called it pick up. But yeah, it was basically the same principle, to go after women. And in my 20s, it was the biggest goal.
Hold on a sec, my internet's not working.
No, you're there.
Am I still there? Right, it's just that you were chopping up a bit at the end.
Okay. Yeah, so in my 20s, the biggest pursuit for me was to simply go after women, go to parties, etc., everything that you described, and during that time, I did not have a wake-up moment. For me personally, and I talked about this on my channel, it took a severe disease, and I thank God for that, when I was 24, that wrecked me, and I couldn't pursue that lifestyle any longer. This is when I started rethinking. But you are realizing that now, I think you're 21 years old. You're healthy, you're strong, you're in your, not even in your prime, man. You're reaching your prime slowly. You still have 10 years to go at least. So for me, it just, was there a click moment, or have you always been so reflective? Was it something that triggered it?
I don't think so. I think it was a very slow process. It was kind of like, what the best analogy I can give you is, when you people boil frogs, they put a frog in a pan and they just slowly turn it up a degree and a degree and a degree and a degree, and the frog doesn't actually know it's getting heated up until it's dead. And I kind of feel like that's what it was. I've always been tremendously reflective. And I remember, just like you were saying, that lifestyle that you're purported with. And every time I would engage in it, not every time, but I'd say about 80% of the time I would not enjoy it because there was something just in my head that I didn't understand why this was the norm. You know what I mean? So, how do I word what I'm going to say? But yeah, with regards to that instant gratification thing, again, no one can make you do it, and this is how they get you. The war now, it used to be drop bombs, go into a nation, take over the bank. They can't do that anymore because I think people understand what war actually is. So the war now, and I use this analogy a lot. So say the Western world in the 60s, you want to take over the Western world, right? You can either go in and you can drop bombs and you can kill 100 million people. You're going to get retaliation. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be a hard.
Chopping off again. The internet connection, man. Alright guys, we have technical issues. I hope you can still hear me. On my end, everything seems to be fine with my internet connection here. I think it's on Lord Bear's end. Let me just double check and maybe we have to reconnect. Yeah, seems like it. Yeah, it's Lord Bear's internet connection. Okay, we're gonna reconnect and then it should be fine. I hope so. Yeah, it's the CIA messing with the internet, huh? It's the Zionists. Or maybe even Dajjal himself. Okay, let me reconnect. There we go. It's Lord Bear. Until then, I'm going to read out some super chat, guys. Just give me a second. Okay. I'm going to read out some super chats until then. Excuse the interruption, guys. Lord Bear's internet is not loyal, but I'm sure he's going to be able to reconnect. Let me just write him real quick. There he is again. Oh, okay, fantastic.
My internet call.
Do you use Wi-Fi or do you have a LAN cable?
Wi-Fi, but it seems to be working better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you clearer now. Actually, that's better. So, like I was saying, with regards to the if you want to conquer a nation,
sure.
Instead of dropping the bombs and doing it in like a masculine sort of way where it's head-on war, what you do, and this is what I was talking to you about when you mentioned the indulgences and this instant gratification thing. And again, like I said, it was the analogy I used of you have something fruitful and Shaitan will give you a sterile offer which crumbles you. Instead of taking out 100 million people with bombs, you give all the men pornography, promote a promiscuous culture to women so they start bickering and resenting against each other. You bring in fiat currency so no one can have a family when they're young because the price of assets are through the roof. Then the birth rate plummets to nothing. And in 5 generations, 100 million plus people who would have been born are now no longer born. And as well as that, if you did want to go in, boots on the ground, all the men are cucked and castrated now and they won't do anything. So you have to watch out. And I seen this the other day, and I think this is, I know you'll feel the same about this as you've been in the West. And I bring this up quite a lot, is that I think that Islam now is very clearly the last fighting hope against this modern, degenerate, disgusting, satanic culture. 100%. And they're going to try their very best to water down Islam. And the way they do it is they have to make you want to do it. And I've seen a couple things recently, and this is just my opinion. Bobby has no affiliation with this at all. I've seen a few things recently where I can see these tricks getting implemented. I seen something the other day about no strings nikah, which is how this new promoted idea that Muslim women can get married temporarily to fuck pretty much and then get divorced. That has to be, you can't accept that because that is Shaitan as clearly as I can see him. It's exactly what I was talking about. They have to make you want it. They can't put a gun to your head and make you get divorced. They have to present it to you in a way that attacks your desires and your passions so you accept it yourself. So these things that are going to arise, I know in Morocco, I'm thinking of moving to Morocco around about end of the year. And I was speaking to a couple of brothers out there, and they're now pushing the whole women murdering their offspring thing as liberating. Best way I could put that is when people always use it under the guise of freedom. They will say, you're now free to do this, free to take the hijab off. This is freedom, freedom, freedom. The things that they are giving you, that they are telling you you are free to do, you could do in a 6-foot jail cell. So you're not free to have a family and live off the land, but you're free to murder your offspring. You're not free to live a beautiful life with someone forever and sit with each other at your deathbeds, but you're free to take no strings nikah. It's a devil's trick. And I think one of the roles I'm going to have throughout my life, and I think it will be my calling, is I kind of feel like I'm the guy who was wandering around in the wilderness, and there was two camps. There was the Muslim nation, and then this Haram satanic sort of army. And it's almost as if I've been roaming around in the woods, confused, and I can see this army marching. And because I've had my boots on the ground in the West, and I see and you'll know this as well, how disgusting and horrifying it gets, I feel like we're the warners who have to come and tell people, look, you can't compromise on your deen because it gets really bad if you do. So when I see things like no strings nikah or these new little just do it, it's fine, it doesn't really matter sort of thing, that's how they get you. It's not boots on the ground, it's they make you do it. So stuff like that, you have to be cautious.
Let me just intersect right there. So the temporary marriage is actually not a new concept. We've seen that with the Shia branch of Islam, if you will. And as far as I remember, it's called nikah mutar, I think, something like that, nikah mutar. And it has been practiced for a while within Shiism. However, within Sunnism, this is absolutely not acceptable, right? But this is something that they rearrange, temporary marriages for, as you mentioned, sex. Yeah.
You can't accept it. I do know that the Shias have done it, because I spoke to a few people regarding it, but I don't think you can accept that. I really think, because that's how they always get you, is they break the nuclear family, because after that, everything's conquerable, you know?
For sure. Moreover, what you mentioned there with Islam being essentially the last fighting option, that's exactly the same conclusion that I came to, because I was reflecting upon it, right? There was a time when I was thinking about how to change the world, right? And especially in your age, that is the spirit that you have. You want to change the world. It's obvious, It's normal. And so during that time, I was reflecting upon it, what to do. So I kind of stumbled across the New Age movement, if you will. And the New Age movement is spiritual but not religious, and we saw what that led to. However, back then it was kind of new, and I thought, yes, this is the way to go. We need to establish a spiritual connection, but not stay in dogma like our ancestors. Like this, we're going to create a bright new world, right? However, that endeavor, as I said, already failed. Moreover, the question became, what kind of political systems do we have? So we have democracy, quote unquote, which is nothing but liberalism.
Yeah, you're right.
Then we have a dictatorship, National Socialism, which can be partially successful in certain instances, but then not in the long run. And so therefore I was looking at the mega powers yet again, and the only ones that seem to be successful at the moment would be the Chinese with their technocratic communism. But who wants that? So now you ascribe to technocratic communism and you erase God from the picture. My parents are from the Balkans, from former Yugoslavia, nowadays known as Macedonia, and they came out of communism. So during that time, when I was baptized as a Christian Orthodox, I was baptized secretly in our flat because the churches were closed, right? So religion was outlawed, and I already saw that world, how that would look like. And there was reflecting, and there was a glimpse of hope within Orthodox Christianity. I thought this will somehow save the world. But ultimately, if you really look into the doctrine, you're missing one key aspect, and that is what you mentioned. It is the law. It is Sharia law. And so therefore, you are left with only one option, and that is Islam. The other option, if you will, would be to invent a totally new religion and to come up with that and establish a bunch of new followers and then hope for the best. But that is ridiculous, because Islam is already perfect and it has everything we need. It has the divine law. And therefore, I came to the same conclusion. There's literally nothing else that will steer mankind into a perfect life on this planet. There's nothing else. Especially not Christianity, 100%. Because Christianity makes the promise of the afterlife and insists that we as Christians are supposed to suffer here in this world. Just as Jesus Christ took up his cross, we should suffer in this world. And this is a very, very defeatist attitude. Everybody knows that paradise, of course, that is the ultimate goal, and this dunya is temporary. Nobody says that this here is the paradise. However, if you want to suffer throughout your life here and live a so-called lowly life, you will not accomplish anything. You will be run over by stronger forces, right? And therefore, the only logical conclusion is yet again Islam.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, and I know you'll get this as well, but I get a lot of like Orthodox Christian guys, right?
Sure.
Who'll sit and comment and comment and comment and comment and comment. For those guys in the West, there's going to be two things that replace your disgusting world, and it's either going to be, like you said, that the smut has to go, because if it doesn't, like, this way of life can't sustain itself, because everyone just becomes like a rainbow trans person and no one can work, right? So the two things that are going to replace that are either going to be, like you said, a communism. Someone like Stalin will come in, he'll get rid of all your smut, he'll get rid of your nightclubs, etc. You don't get God under that, and it's going to be a very tough way to live. Or, inshallah, we can stick to our deen enough. And I know this sounds overly ambitious, but I personally don't think it is. A Sharia law will come in and replace it. But you get two options there. And for these guys that are so quick to criticize Islam, you said this earlier regarding Christians and Islam should bind together. Why do you think there was so much propaganda required to get a Christian nation to go bomb Muslims overseas? Because we don't realize how similar we are. We're very similar. And if we weren't, they wouldn't have required certain events, which if you look into are garbage, to go and get these things to occur, because we are very similar. So when people criticize Islam, you have to understand your current way of life won't sustain itself. And you're either going to get a communism coming in, or you're going to get a Sharia law. But yeah, I totally get what you mean. Again, like I said, if you don't have a law backing anything, it doesn't matter. So for example, like I always say this about things like nightclubs, right? The nightclub industry. Now, you can be an Orthodox Christian or just a Christian or whatever, and you can have your faith. But if things like nightclubs persist in your society, it doesn't matter. So, for example, and I don't think people have ever realized this, the nightclub industry and the clubbing, drinking industry only exists and can only profit if you turn wives, mothers, daughters into whores. Because if women didn't go to nightclubs, guys wouldn't go. So if these things are like festering in your nation, it doesn't matter. You can debate Jesus is God or not. It doesn't matter if these things are allowed. Like, that industry only exists if you can turn women into whores. And I think it's completely haram. If it were up to me, I would burn it all to the ground. I know it's a bit overly aggressive, but again, like, yes, with the Christians, etc., you can debate, but the hour is getting late, so it's best not to lie. Something's going to have to replace it, and it's either going to be a communism or it's going to be a Sharia law. And I think you're condemning Sharia and you're not realizing the lies you've been told. Because if anyone reads into Sharia for more than like an hour, you realize the whole thing was a psyop. It's a complete psyop. It would solve every single problem that people face nowadays. It is like a divine source of law. It's the perfect way to live. So for the people who are non-Muslim watching this, just take an hour out of your day to go read it, and it'll make perfect sense to you. Make perfect sense to you.
I find it extremely powerful. Again, the nightclub scenario that you mentioned there, and you mentioned that in your videos as well. You identified those people, those dehumanized people ultimately, as brothers and sisters, or at least as potential brothers and sisters. And that truly moved me, man, because not many people think like that. So you saw your country, you saw the West, you saw people in general as being led, even though ultimately it is their own decision, but nevertheless led into that degeneracy, and therefore losing their innocence, losing their soul in a way, right? So therefore, as you said, women are being turned into whores for that establishment to function in the first place. It wouldn't function otherwise. Moreover, It wouldn't work without the alcohol either. So therefore, you bring in people, they have to drink alcohol, they have to smoke cigarettes, then illegally they smuggle in drugs, etc., you name it, and then they fornicate. So everything sinful that you can imagine is being promoted and is established as a social construct that is totally the norm. It is normal to go out on the weekend, get hammered, and have sex with a random person that you never will see again. It is absolutely outrageous and disgusting, right? And
it's crazy. It's completely crazy.
Yet again, for me, it's absolutely fascinating that you identified that those people, they are true people. They are not just some random faces, but they are potential brothers and sisters.
Exactly. Because I remember last time I went to a nightclub, and this is way before my Shahada, the last time I went to a nightclub or drank alcohol was nearly a year ago now. And I remember I had this distinct feeling in my head. So I had a quote-unquote influencer night where it was me and my friend, and there was about 15 of what you would call Instagram girls, and we were doing a promotion for the club. And this is towards the end, and I really didn't like it at this point, but you're working, your friends want to do it, you do it. And I remember sitting at a table with all these like Instagram girls around me, and I looked out and I seen one of these women like twerking, and it hit me instantly. I was like, there's some guy who would have lived his life with you forever, and he's probably cried over you at night, and now you've degraded yourself to nothing more than a vessel for weak men's lust. And then I seen guys who were doing stupid dances and stuff, and I go, the only reason you're doing this, you're making a mockery of yourself, is to try and impress people. I used to work in a nightclub, and I think this is what really opened my eyes, is I was sober looking in. It's like you're blinded by your sin, and I'm watching these people as I'm sober, and you can see what it is. So if you go into a nightclub, right, if you don't have alcohol, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be surrounded by people. The music, it isn't like harmonious piano that you can enjoy. It's and if you're not off your face on alcohol and these sorts of things, you don't enjoy it. It's a complete spell. It's a complete trick, but people don't see it, you know. But this is the thing, and what you're saying in regards to the fornication side of thing, and this is a good way I can put it with people, is that nightclub, you get drunk, then your whole point of the clubbing is to go fornicate after it. We can lie all you want. That's the only reason I went. It's the only reason anyone goes, right? What you're doing then is you're degrading yourself to nothing more than a body for someone you don't know to take pleasure from, right? And the way I look at it is that whenever you insult someone, you insult yourself. Whenever you use someone, you use yourself. So you may think you're just doing this nice stuff and you're getting a temporary high from it, but you're degrading yourself, you know. I think there's a massive difference between two people who love each other creating something for the future, or degrading yourself so you can, like animals, just consume each other. I think it's completely haram. But again, for the young people in the West, and this is why I'm so vocal about these things, there's no opposition to that. I've never heard anyone criticize nightclubs in my life. And then when you look at it without these like sin-blinded glasses, it's one of the most haram industries on the planet. It's crazy to me. But again, no one can make you do it. You have to do it to yourself. You have to want to be lustful. You have to want to degrade yourself, etc. I say this to guys regarding women and getting married, and there's this big black-pilled sort of consensus that all women are promiscuous now, and that's not true one bit. The reason you think that is, again, because you're lustful yourself. You're promiscuous. These guys will go on Instagram, they'll speak to a woman who posts herself everywhere. They'll go to a nightclub, they'll sleep with a woman, and then they'll fall in love with them, and then they'll find out that the girl cheated on them with a guy that they met on Instagram or in a nightclub. It's like, but why did you speak to them? Because you like the flesh, you like what it did to your eyes. You just attract what you are. So again, with all the things I'm saying, it can sound daunting, it can sound intimidating, but it all requires your consent. This hopelessness, fearlessness sort of thing is not legitimate. A point I'm going to make, actually, this is very important, and I found this out the other day. Point I'm going to make, and it's very critical, and I want people to understand this because this is huge, and no one's ever explained this to you, and I will now because it's huge. When you look at social media, okay, social media is not organic. There's a theory, it's not a theory, it's been proven that in 2018, and before people call me crazy, look at ChatGPT, look at video games that are single player. And in 2018, the amount of fake accounts on social media surpassed the amount of real accounts. That was 5 years ago. And I think that the consensus now is that to every one real account on social media, there is 9 fake ones, bots filled with comments, filled with followers. Okay. So I'm seeing this now. So with regards to what we were saying about how did this culture become so normal? How did people leave their farm, leave their family, get into debt, do abortions for their children, and fornicate? You look at Instagram now, and I can see it a mile away what they're doing to Muslims, because my whole social media feed is predominantly Muslim. What they'll do is they will create a fake culture under the guise that it's real. You know the term body count? You've heard of the term body count?
Sure, of course.
Where did that come from? Name the person that came up with that term, because that's exactly what we were talking about. You degrade someone to nothing more than a vessel for your own pleasure. No one can name the person that created the term body count, yet it's now the norm that you say. So what happens is, and I seen this the other day, is that initially they try and get men and women to hate each other. And I see posts on social media now where it's, again, an account, it'll have 1 million followers, none of them are real, but to the eye, it looks like this is the culture. They'll fill the comment section with, oh, I agree, this is so cool, blah, 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 blah. And the video will be something like, when he wants to marry you, but he can't even afford a fancy car or something. That's not real. That is not real. It's inorganic. And what happens is people go on social media, they'll see a video like that I seen one the other day of a young Muslim girl with just text, and it said, when you're sticking to your deen, but you really want to go clubbing and get attention. That's not organic. They'll put that on one of these accounts that have loads of followers. They'll flood the comments with bots saying, yes, this is so bad, bitch. This is so bad, bitch. So when a young woman goes and see it, a real person goes and sees it on social media, she goes, oh, 1 million likes, 400,000 comments. This must be the norm. I want to fit in. The young guys will see it and they'll start resenting the woman. You have to, when something is free, you're the product. And the way, again, like I always say, they don't make you do it. They have to make you want it. So when you go on social media, understand this culture that is infecting Islam now is not organic. It is fake. And it's, again, the reason Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok is free is because you're the product. Your mind is what they actually want. So when you see these things like trying to get Muslim men and women to argue, trying to get the idea of having kids demonized, it's not organic. It's not a real person behind. Again, you can't name me the person that came up with the term body count. They just blast it on these massively followed accounts with fake followers that they can look at ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT can speak better than 99% of the population. They'll flood it with bots, flood the comments with bots, and they'll create a synthetic culture. And if enough people see it, it becomes the norm. So with things like that, you have to protect your eyes, protect your ears, and protect what comes in and out of your mouth. Because the only way that this Western culture can infect Islam is if they make you do it yourself. And that's how they'll do it. They'll play on your emotions. They'll get women and men to resent each other. None of it's organic. For the men, women are not your enemy. For the women, the men are not your enemy. The whole reason it's divide and conquer, turn blacks against whites, the left against the right, Christian against Islam, so no one looks up at who's actually doing this and topples over the chessboard. You know what I mean? Exactly. So with things like that, you have to be very careful, you know?
Yes, absolutely. This social engineering, ultimately playing the sides against each other. This is why I was never a fan of the so-called miktail movement, and I was attacked on my channel here as well. No. It's so hilarious. It was so obvious that it's just feminism for men, right? It's the exact same 100%. Movement reversed. And people got so triggered when I talked about it. I was asking them, what is your end goal now? You want to go your own way? You never want to get married? You never want to have children? Congratulations. What's the whole point? So ultimately, you will end up fornicating in Southeast Asia or in South America. Exactly. Right? So that's the end goal. Like, fantastic.
I agree with the passport rules thing as well. Have you seen that? It's just cringe. Like, it's just like the only reason you can't attract one of these halal women, like in the Quran, again, it all comes back to the Quran. There's a passage, and I'm going to not get the words exactly right. But it was saying, in essence, that righteous women are for righteous men, evil women are for evil men, or wicked women are for wicked men. This whole miktail thing, what you're saying to me is that you're just a perv and you can't attract a high-quality woman because you can't see past flesh, you know? It's just, it's male feminism. But again, are these movements organic? I don't know. Definitely. I don't really buy that they're organic, you know? I think they're synthetic, in my opinion.
So let me ask you now, we talked about all kinds of sins that we find now in the West, and we talked about your background. How do you deal with it nowadays? So now you converted to Islam. Do you still have certain things that you're battling with? Are there any challenges in your life as a new Muslim? Even above that, I would say, are there challenges with Islam in general, the 5 daily prayers, etc., etc.? Tell me about that.
I wouldn't say so. Of course, the 5 daily prayers can be hard because it's not a habit yet. And of course, if I'm doing a lot of stuff, I don't mean to do it. It's not disrespectful, but sometimes I can forget. And of course, sometimes waking up in the morning at 3:30, if you worked all day and you've never done it for your whole life, it can be hard. But I would say the complete opposite. I would say it's liberated me to a degree that you couldn't fathom. You couldn't fathom. And my intellect is improving, my energy is improving, my confidence is improving, my faith. Like, I've got a lot I'm cracking on with now. I don't know if you've heard, but I've dumped about 90% of my liquid net worth into making a Muslim-only social media. If I did that without Islam, I would have been paranoid, I'd be worried, I'd be scared, I'd be so much responsibility. My ability to stand in the face of fear and not cower has changed completely.
Before you move on,
to be honest,
one second. You please tell us about the social media for Muslims.
Oh, so pretty much. I got banned on YouTube twice, and I don't like complaining. So I decided I'm going to make my own social media. So I'm in contact. We're already working. The demo's been. I've seen the demo. It looks fantastic. It's going to be a social media. The name is Dawagram. It should be up in about I'd say about six weeks. I'd say maybe July time, mid-July. And what it's going to be is, again, like I said, how we spoke about social media earlier, how it purports these fake events.
Sure.
So take, for example, with the whole event on September with 2 buildings. Okay, for example, if you can synthetically change the culture and trick people into believing that's real with social media and just convince people it's real through propaganda, you control the world in essence. This social media is going to have no haram, no nudity, no real free mixing at all, no degeneracy, no music. When you go on, kids can go on it. If you post anything haram, if a woman, if you're trying to get a male's attention and you post something provocative, you're banned instantly. It's going to be clean. There's going to be sections for marriage. There's going to be loads of different. I've seen the demo. It looks way better than Instagram, way better than Facebook. There's going to be different sections for everything you could imagine under Islam. And there's going to be no haram. A child could go on it and it would be the greatest asset. Because nowadays, look, parents are both working and you need to find someone who can raise the kid. And if you put them on the social media, there's going to be unlimited halal information, unlimited inspiringness. There's going to be no room for degeneracy or haram or subversion. It'll all be blocked. If you try to post anything about riba, you're banned for life. So inshallah, when that goes up, I think it'll be huge. Because you know, look, the internet raises people nowadays. You know.
Sure. Just by describing this, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's how the normal world should be. You know.
It should be. Yeah, it shouldn't be a crazy idea.
Yeah, exactly. Now it sounds like this crazy, revolutionary, outrageous idea, but it's just normal. It's just absolutely normal. You want a social media platform where you can see normal things and not girls twerking all the time, right? So
yeah, it's funny. Eh? I had a quote the other day that was like, that if you want to be a superhero in the modern world, you just don't. All you have to do is not watch Runaways on X videos and eat Doritos and stuff. It's true. Like the barrier. This is the thing. It's like the competition's so low, but it's like
unbelievable.
Once that's up, that'll make a huge change. Because then, for example, with your live, so we're going to have our own section for live streaming. Again, I've seen the demo; it's all set up.
Amazing.
Your YouTube. If you say anything, if something occurred and you say something, you get striked.
Sure.
Despite the fact that Cardi B WAP is not striked, it's completely free. That's up there, great. Kids can listen to it.
Sure.
This is now going to be an independent, no riba, no outside investment, independent Islamic social media. So if you want to put your live stream on it, you can say whatever you want. You don't get banned.
Amazing.
It's powerful, man. It's really powerful. So we'll see how it goes. It should be up in about 6 weeks.
Yeah,
but again, there's a lot of headache. But this is what I was saying regarding how my life's doing now. What would have been the things that could have stopped me? Pride could have got to me. I will say that. The pride element could have got me. Oh, I'm 21, social media, blah, blah, blah. That's stopped. There's no women that get in my way. There's no hedonism that gets in my way. There's no fear because I have faith in a higher power. And I truly believe that. So again, the only person who can stop you is yourself. And this past couple months has been fantastic, like truly fantastic. I went through an awkward stage as well last year. We'll probably get into this regarding the war room, but just prior to joining the war room, I was very isolated because all the friends I had were doing haram. And they only really use you because they want you as a body to go out and go to places like nightclubs. They don't actually care about you as a person. And now that I have like 50, 100 brothers that I speak to on a regular basis from the content I've been putting out there, it's going really well. And to understand that it's all down to how strong are you in the face of sin and haram. And if you can resist that, I think Allah will always reward you with something, you know, beautiful and fruitful. So it's been fantastic. Can I quickly just nip to the toilet? This water fast, everything's kind of going through me. Is that all right? Perfect. I'll only be like 2 minutes.
No worries. Yeah, for people watching, Lord Bear is on a water fast at the moment. So kudos to him. He's doing a 7-day water fast, he told me, and today is day 2, so he hasn't eaten in 2 days, and he still made it onto the show, so that is definitely commendable. The longest water fast I ever did was 10 days straight, and I think I lost roughly 10 kilos after doing that. I wouldn't really recommend it, to be honest, but during that time, I was into spirituality, veganism, the New Age, as I mentioned previously here on this channel, and I ended up in a Buddhist monastery where I fasted for 10 days straight with no food whatsoever, just water. It's a spiritual experience for sure. Anyways, guys, I'm going to jump into the super chats real quick, now finally, and see what we got here. If we have any questions for Lord Bear, I'm going to spare them for later on. Let me just double check. Oh, we have a lot here. Thank you, everybody. Let me give you an applause right away. Peace World donated $1. Thank you very much. Peace World. Would be nice to have peace in the world. As Saber donated €2. Thank you very much. Says, need my double shot espresso. Amazing stream ahead. Brother, I wish I could have coffee as well. I quit coffee a long time ago. It doesn't agree with me any longer, but I used to love espresso. O Reacts donated $5 through Super Chat. Thank you very much. Says, love what you do, brother Bobby. And great guest, great insight, never a dull moment. Any chance I can get the chance to say my revert story someday with you? Inshallah, brother, contact me via email. The links are in the description box. I don't think that they are in the description box of this live stream. However, under my regular videos, you can find it. Just contact me, let me know who you are, or on Instagram, and then we can go from there. Thank you very much. Bashar Falaha donated €5. Thank you very much. You Muslim friend donated $1. Thank you. Says, Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Happy to see the Ummah expanding. Thank you very much, brother. Happy as well, of course. Happy to be part of it. And happy to see new brothers flooding in, especially young brothers, motivated brothers. The Dawa Trucker became a member. Thank you very much. And says, Islam is a lost treasure we must search for. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It is not lost in the sense that it doesn't have any publicity. So people do see Islam, quote unquote, but they do not see the true Islam. 1 second, I'm kind of breaking up here. 1 second. I think that's better. Okay, my connection just got lost. And Lord Bear is back with us as well. Alright guys, I'm gonna keep on reading the super chats afterwards. Thank you very much for the super chats so far. Now Lord Bear is back, we're going to continue with our discussion. And after that I'm going to read them out, inshallah. Okay, here we go. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for waiting on me.
Yeah, no worries.
This water fast makes it difficult because everything just goes through me. Eh?
Yeah, I know what that is. I told them about it, that you're fasting at the moment, so you're aspiring to do 7 days. And you're on day 2
I think it's good for everyone. In fact, here's a bit of advice for the guys out there, because I know that a lot of guys message me saying they just can't get anything done. And I think you need to have a form of fuel inside of you. You need to have something that's driving you. And I think the 2 biggest factors, especially for men, when it comes to getting things done, are reproduction and finding food, pretty much. So if you can, and I don't know if this is an Islamic idea, but it was a Muslim gentleman who told me about this, that your stomach and your reproductive organs kind of have their own consciousness, and when you give them enough power, they can change what you actually want to do. And so if you can get in control of them, so for example, if I can go 7 days without eating, I now have like unlimited energy because my body wants food. So I just work because I have that fuel. It gets rid of the lack, not that I have a lack of confidence, but say there's something's intimidating, that just evaporates because it's just get the objective done. Like, you need food, it's survival. And if you can stop engaging in zina and self-abuse, you have the same driving forces, like an unlimited energy source you can just tap into and just work. So, you know, like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, I think we said this prior to the stream, I believe, and I could be wrong, I think it was Monday and Thursday or Tuesday and Thursday that he fasted for. And it's fantastic for you. As well as that, this is why I love Ramadan. I love Ramadan because if you can refuse food, you can refuse anything. So now when I get things done, I find it way easier to not check my phone. I find it way easier to not waste time. when it comes to any form of haram engagement, if you can resist food, you can resist almost everything, you know. So that's why I love Ramadan. Was hard for me, I'm not gonna lie. The no water was difficult. I ended up becoming a tomato, just sweating all the time and stuff. But it was great. But those things are great, you know, because I know people now, I don't know if this is true, but a lot of people don't really engage in Ramadan as much as they used to do, I believe. I think it's more like is that not true? It might not be true. Ramadan's fantastic. It's completely fantastic, because if you can go without food and water, you can go without anything. And then when shaitan comes to you with some promiscuous woman, in my opinion, that was always my big one. I went a month without eating and drinking during the day, and you think I'm going to collapse because you've revealed your body to no chance. You know, it makes you stronger in the face of temptation. So it's very good for you.
Absolutely.
But it's hard. Don't lie, it's hard.
Yeah, I mentioned this offline quickly, briefly. It brings you into a state where you don't identify with your desires anymore, because you realize that you are not your desires. And moreover, It is a spiritual practice because you realize that you're not your body, right? So therefore, as long as you're in the identification process of, I am hungry, right? And you listen to this, I am hungry urge, and you identify as it, then you can never distinguish who you are and who the body is, right? So therefore, you will never understand that you're a soul, so to speak, in a human body. And as long as that connection hasn't been made with your own soul, it is much, much easier to fall into your desires, because you will always identify as those desires. I am thirsty, I am hungry, I am horny, etc., etc. And so therefore, it becomes an ego pursuit after that, and you need to satisfy
100%.
that urge. And only if you satisfy 100%. That urge, you satisfy that itch, so to speak, you scratch that itch, only then you can live. But fasting teaches you that you can live quite fine without anything. And once you do 100%. That, you reset your body and your mind, so to speak.
Yeah, you're so right with the identifying thing. You will always act consistent with who you believe you are. True. And this is the thing. So I'm very good, because I've quit everything. Like every haram thing I did, it just went.
That would be my question.
Besides nicotine. Nicotine's the only one I struggle with, because I get because I think it's not rewiring it does to your brain, but it's an actual stimulant. And coming off that, like just stopping alcohol and stuff, you get physical reactions to it. And I think if I came off that as well as everything else, I'd probably become a warlord and raise a caliphate too quickly, right?
Let's do it, man. Stop smoking.
Too right. I need to stop it. But what I was going to say is, like, when you are quitting something, if you identify as a person who is quitting, you're going to go back to it, because it's who you see yourself as. Exactly. Whereas if you see yourself as a person who does not do this, when someone offers you it, you just refuse it because you're not that guy, you know. Here's one thing that you were talking about with regards to I say this quite a lot, and I think it's quite eye-opening, with regards to you are not your desires. And the good way I can put this is going back to the nightclub one. I think you'll understand what I'm saying. So you'll have done this before, where you drink alcohol and weird thoughts come in your head that you wouldn't think when you're sober. You like music you didn't like. You'll look at a woman who is like a whale, and you'll decide, great, let's do it. You'll see a bouncer who's 6'8" who could kill you, and you think you want to fight him. When you cut open a human brain, there is no part of the brain, you can look this up, there is no part of the brain which is in control of the mind, imagination, your conscious and subconscious. There's places for memory, places for function, etc. There's no part of the brain for the mind, the subconscious, conscious, and the imagination. So who puts those thoughts in your head? When you're sitting there drinking and you decide, it just comes to you. You don't logically think, oh, great, let's go fornicate with that woman over there who you wouldn't have done when you're sober. Are those thoughts your own? I don't think they are. And when you look at how, and I say this a lot, I don't think shaitan can make you do anything. I think he has to make you do it to yourself. When you drink alcohol and engage in haram, you're kind of giving shaitan the green light and the consent to start planting thoughts in your head which you think are yours, but they're not. Because you consciously, when you're sober, you don't want to do these things. But when you engage in haram, all of a sudden you do. Whose thoughts actually are they? I don't think they're yours. I think they're shaitan's, and he makes you do it that way because you've given him consent by engaging in that sort of stuff. So with regards to quitting haram, it's been very easy for me. Just besides nicotine, that's the only one I struggle with. But like, I went from the big one for me was always women, and I went from being, sexually promiscuous 4 times a week for 5 years to nothing. Like just nothing, because I see through it. It's like what I said earlier. You want to get married and have a family. Shaitan gives you the temporary zina. And once I seen that, I just gone. So everything's going very well. And every day you get more and more clarity of thought. Your ideas are better. Like for the past week, the amount of ideas I keep coming up with that solve solutions to the current problem, like the social media, I would never have thought of them if I was blinded by my sin. And now that I'm not, all these things are just coming to fruition. I have the energy to take action on them. I don't have the fear I used to have. Well, can you do it? Can you not do it? You just, if Allah wills it, it will be, you know, and you just go at things. So with quitting all the haram, it's been very easy. I've been on that kind of journey for a while. I haven't drank alcohol in about a year now. So hopefully, again, I just stay on that path, you know.
Absolutely. How is it for you with your family members? Because for me, it was quite tough. So the decision has been made. I mean, listening to you, it's quite obvious that there was no other choice than to accept Islam for you. You see there's the straight path. I can see the conviction. Obviously, it's needless to say yet again. But how was it with your family members? I don't know, mother, father, for example. Do you live with them? Do you live in your own flat? How does that look like?
Yeah. So they don't know. They don't know. No one really knows actually. Yes, and they just haven't come across my stuff yet. But the reason, and it's not because I know you'll probably feel the same. So I take it you got a bit of bother from family when you decided.
Not a bit of bother. See, just real quick here, because I want to make this interview about you and not about me. However, on the Balkan, the identification with religion is enormous. It's not like in the West. You know, nowadays people, they're dropping out of church. They don't really care for Christianity. They're liberals. But on the Balkan, you're either a Muslim or you are an Orthodox Christian, right? And even though they don't know much about the theology itself, the identification is so strong, and it's almost impossible, not almost, it is impossible to convert to another religion. It is unthinkable. It is the biggest breach that you can imagine. Yeah. It is like treason, ultimately. You go against your own people, because on the Balkan we had this 500-year war with the Ottoman Empire, with the Caliphate. And that's why, for me, when I reverted to Islam, quite frankly, my family just stopped talking to me altogether. And that is not only my mother, my father, my sister, but even the distant family. So my uncles, they don't want to welcome me in their home anymore. So I have no contact with my family at all anymore. So I traded basically my family for Islam.
Yeah, that is my concern as well, and it's not because they're bad people, but it's like this MK Ultra programming that the West has instilled in people regarding Islam. Because again, people don't realize how not crazy it is. Like, this is why they required all these events and propaganda to get you to go bomb them overseas and vilify them. And my concern is that programming and propaganda, they would never see through it. And as well, because of the lifestyle they live, the typical Western lifestyle, they're probably too blinded by their sin to see it, even if it hit them in the face. So as a hard one, my young sister knows, actually. And I wouldn't be surprised, because she's very clued in. She gets it based, right? And she's 18. I wouldn't be surprised if she took her shahada in the future, because she was totally on board asking me about it. So I think what's happening is a lot of these young guys or young people are rebelling against this way of life that, like, the baby boomers kind of coined, etc. But I haven't told anyone yet, which is going to be interesting, because I think I'm probably going to get married maybe at the start of next year. And the concern is when do you spill the beans, you know? You know what I mean? So it's an interesting one, but I think it'll be overseas. I'm going to be leaving the UK shortly, because I just can't stand it anymore. I'm looking at Morocco at the moment, and there's a couple of war room guys out there. I was thinking Dubai, but I have a weird feeling about Dubai I don't like. I feel like, you know, the theme of this today has kind of been like, with regards to haram, they have to make you want it. If you look at Dubai, why are nightclubs and drinking allowed in a Muslim country?
It's not an Islamic country in that sense.
It's not, is it? And when things are too good to be true, they typically are. Yeah. And I think what Dubai is the way that they're going to start westernizing the Muslim world. Because if you accept that, because look, this is how they make you do it. Oh, come here, Instagram girls, drinking, nightclubs, no taxes.
Come then to people Dubai, Habibi.
Yeah, exactly. So I was considering Dubai, but I don't like it. So Morocco looks like the main shout now, because of just how the culture there. It's the closest Muslim nation to Europe, to where I am. So it looks, I was thinking Turkey, but we'll see. I don't think there's any magic soil. There's no magic dirt that will cure your life. However, there's three things I typically judge a country on, and it's the crime, the women, and the taxes, for me. because I don't want to have all my money taken away. And if you look at Sharia law, taxes are not, they're not, you don't need taxes. Taxes are a farce.
Exactly.
For people watching this in the West, they will require 50% of your tax money if you make 100K, which can't even buy you a house. But then they'll just go print $10 trillion because it's fiat, again, outlawed in Sharia law, to go bomb a country overseas. Think with your head, you know. So I don't want to get all my money taken away. The woman's a big aspect of things, because if the women are promiscuous, I'm not interested. And as well, I think women are only promiscuous in nations where the men are immoral. So that gives me an indicator of the men, the crime as well. If you look at the UK, because of the cost of living and things, the crime just keeps going up and up and up. So that it looks like Morocco at this moment in time. And Dubai would have been nice for.
How's the tax situation in Morocco, though?
It doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too bad in my opinion, and I think guns are more lenient. So I think you can concealed carry. I believe I was looking into it because I want to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So we'll just see how it goes. But again, there's no magic soil. But when it comes to laws and the culture, I take that quite seriously. Again, that's the hard part. Like finding a country that allows you to carry a gun, like concealed.
Yeah.
I don't know how it got this bad. You know, I don't know how, but they have to make you want to give up your guns with events that I'm not going to mention, which I don't think are completely as they're explained. But it's weird how the world's got to this, like how it's got so cocked.
Yeah,
like it's crazy, you know what I mean?
You saw one of those, again, we're not going to mention it here in detail, but you saw one of those events now in Serbia, and now, of course, all the guns have been confiscated again, you know? So,
come on. People have to think with their heads, man. It's crazy. Like,
yeah, but Dubai is very attractive because of the tax situation. I was even thinking about it for myself to get registered in Dubai, and I'm looking into options right now, not even living there full time, but just for the tax situation, of course.
That's what I'm going to do as well, because I think it's about $20,000 to get everything set up. If you need that, by the way, you can send me a message on Instagram.
I have a guy as well. We can talk about it.
Oh, you have a guy as
well.
Yeah, that's perfect, because one of the warring guys is going to do that for me. So I think I'm going to do that where I get companies set up in Dubai, because again, taxes, like you look into Sharia, taxes are not required. It's just the way. What I think it is I think so they get you in debt with riba and fiat currency, and then the way they prolong that debt, because if you're in debt, you can't stand up to anything. You're going to struggle to have a family. You're going to medicate yourself with alcohol and haram, right? I think the reason taxes are a thing is they make no sense in economics, is it prolongs the debt period. You're in debt for twice as long as you would have been had you have not had taxes, you know. So again, think critically. So yeah, but again, once diagram's up, we can talk about things like these events that involve guns and stuff, because it's just preposterous when you look into them.
Looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
once it's up, definitely tell me, and I'm going to promote it here on my channel as well, so people can find it, because I absolutely salute that idea. It's fantastic. As I said, this is what social media should have been in the first place.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think it's like you said, it's crazy how that's now seen as like a heroic thing to do, whereas like you just don't expose kids to smut, and that's like you're a hero now. Like it's crazy how degenerate things have got looking back, but
too easy.
We'll see how it goes.
But about your parents, one last thing, because they don't know yet, were they really religious, or how was it with them?
Not really. But I think everyone's religious, but they just won't. They don't know it. And a good analogy I can give you, and I've used this before, going back to the nightclub thing. Look at the religion of the young woman in the West. Their church is a nightclub. Their holy water is vodka. The sacrifice was the boyfriend that they cheated on. The second coming is the basketball player that they slept with who doesn't text them back anymore. Their communion is drugs. Their gospel is Cardi B music, and their prophet is like a Megan Thee Stallion. It's a religion. It's even atheism. Look at atheism. It's all a religion. The miracle was the moon landing, and all this sort of crazy stuff. So I don't think the same fractal story that's in our heart applies to everyone, and people just choose to implement it into what I deem as false realities, you know. So they were quote unquote atheists, but look at this, man. Like, I'm not going to lie, you see atheists now, they defend the moon landing more than Christians defend like their children, you know. Like personally, gaslight for people who are watching this, right? I don't think the Earth's a globe, okay? But people will defend that and criticize and hack and attack you for it. They'll defend that with their life, but they won't defend their country.
They've
from
seen the
pictures,
man. They've seen the pictures. Haven't you seen them from NASA? It's clearly round. You can see it.
Yeah, clearly, right. There's not a
Satellite picture.
single. But this is a good one. I'm not going to get into this topic, but there's not a single photo of Earth as a ball taken once. The blue marble was CGI, and NASA admitted it. I'm not getting into it, but there's a good one, right?
Yeah.
So, but then again, like they'll violently defend that. The Christians have that same tenacity when someone wants them to take usury. Nope. So everyone has a religion. They just don't know it. I think.
I think that's how the mind of humans works ultimately, because you have a priority list. Either you know it or you don't, right? So if you're an atheist, then on top of your priority list would be maybe science, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a Muslim, you're the only one truly that has God on his priority list. No other religion has it. And this is the true shirk. That's how I see it. Because you can start with the Trinity. Okay, you don't have one pure God. You have three in one. But then anything can become your God. Anything can become shirk.
Exactly.
And that's what people don't understand, because they're talking about idolatry. They're talking about the times when we used to worship the golden calf. We used to worship statues. The thing is, everything becomes idolatry. I mean, they're called idols nowadays. You're talking about Cardi B. Then those are your idols. Any mental construct can become your idol. Anything that puts you away from
100%.
God and your direct focus away from God becomes idolatry. And this is why, again, you only have that in Islam. You say MashaAllah, you say Inshallah. All of that reminds you consistently of redirecting your focus back onto God. When you're praying 5 times per day, you're reminded yet again to redirect your focus onto God. No other religion has that whatsoever, and this is why you lose the remembrance of God. And once you did that, you're open for anything, man. And this is how everything becomes your religion. Literally anything. Could be atheism, could be veganism, could be whatever. Right, you name it. This is how it goes. It's a slippery slope once you fall into shirk.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The idols thing's a big one as well. That's another reason why Islam is so pulling towards me. Because if you've seen during, and I got banned for this, so I'm going to use code words, but there was a sniffles sort of thing that occurred in the past 3 years where people got the cold and stuff. You know what I mean? And when you looked at how that was purported, how did they do it? They got idols, movie stars, influencers, musicians to tell you what to do. And these quote unquote Christians,
get a cheeseburger.
get a cheeseburger and fries. You know what they mean? That's crazy. It's just at that point, I think it's natural selection. But I don't want to condemn
100%,
anyone. But again, they did it through idols. Because they made you want to do it. So it's like the no idols is a big part of it, and that's one thing I'm going to mention. As I can see it already, where they're going to infiltrate Islam with false idols that have an inversion to them. I can see it a mile away, and I think as you're getting this massive amount of reversions occurring, like myself, like a lot of popular people, you're going to have ones there who are not organic, and they're reverting for a reason, and it is to become an idol and take you away from that path, And whether that's occurred already, I'm not going to say, or whether it's going to occur in the future, I'm not going to say, because I don't want to make claims, but you're going to see that a lot, and that's one thing you need to watch out for, because I think that's how they're going to do it. Look at the culture now, it's influencer culture. And they have, outside of Islam, those influencers have more influence on young people than their own parents do. So you've got to watch out for that, because again, it gets grim, because I've seen it. People act out things that they wouldn't naturally do themselves had they have not been promoted it by someone they deem to be an authority. So watch out for that, because that's another way they'll try to get you,
Yes, absolutely. Liberalizing Islam. We have a huge problem with that at the moment. It's essentially this last stronghold, Islam, that is being attacked. And this is why it has been under attack in the media. It's not surprising at all. And this is why, yet again, for people watching your story, the takeaway point here is that you identified that those people that are destroying your country, destroying the West, those are the people that are telling you that Islam is bad. Right? Don't look into it. Those are the bad guys. That's exactly the point. So once you can snap out of that conditioning, you will see what Islam truly is, and then moreover, you will see who the people are that try to dilute Islam as well and liberalize Islam. And we have plenty of leaders, and I'm not going to mention their names here, so-called Muslims as well, that are whitewashing Islam, that are watering it down, that are liberalizing it, bringing in the LGTV, etc., into Islam, right? So you have that, unfortunately. But it's just normal. Like that, you see, of course, how strong Islam is, and that it is the only ideology that is a true resistance to the lifestyle we're having right now. Nothing else is there.
Yeah, 100%. And you can see that. And this is a good way to look at it as well. And like these guys that have these platforms, like the influence, like the modern scholars, etc. You can get banned very easily on these sorts of things, you know, like on the internet. And you have to, like you said with the LGTV, I made the mistake of not covering my language, you get flagged, right? So when these guys have like huge promotion and huge exaltation amongst the Muslim community, there's typically a reason they're allowed to do that nowadays, I think. And you've got to watch out for that, because that's how they're going to get you, is by watering it down. And
Sure.
But again, though, this is the thing. And I read this quote the other day that it was, haram is haram no matter if everybody is doing it, and halal is halal no matter if nobody is doing it. And doesn't, again, you can only do it to yourself, right? If the only world you can corrupt is your internal, and once you do that, your external looks terrible. So, for example, I use the analogy of, if you took 4 men, and one was on alcohol, one was on cocaine, one had spent 15 hours on X videos, another guy had, I don't know, something happened. You could set them with the same reality in front of them, and they're all going to have a terrible projection of the world. They're going to be nihilistic, afraid, depressed, etc. If you took, let's say their challenge was to go speak in front of 1,000 people and go ask a woman to be their wife, those 4 guys would be panicking, afraid, nihilistic. They would be miktail, like we talked about earlier.
Yep.
And then if you took 4 halal men who had a clear mind, an empty stomach, and a full pair of bees, they're excited. They want to go. They're like, let's do it. Let's crack on. Let's make things beautiful, etc. So even if everyone does end up falling for the watering down, doesn't mean you have to do it yourself, and it likely won't affect your way of life. Of course, law is important, but if you don't accept it, again, they can't do anything to you. So I think you're going to see that in the future, and I do think I would like to be in. I would like to have the capability to create a retaliation to that. Things like the social media will be good. But again, even if everyone goes down that road, you stand strong with your deen, because that's all that matters at the end of the day. But like you said, I do think you're going to see that watering down aspect of things, because it is sort of the last hope in essence. And it really is, man. Like, and I never came from a place of lacking. It was more overabundance with all the haram. Like, I've always done well financially for myself. With regards to women, I did very quote unquote well. So it wasn't like I got bored and wanted some. It wasn't like I couldn't do it and then just wanted to become exalted. I've expressed all those things, and I could have done them if I wanted to. But once you see the truth of how the world operates, and reading the Quran, etc., you can't deny it after you read it. I'll come to you and say I gave up that whole way of life, and I could have done it till the cows came home, you know. So when I say watch out for people trying to water it down, I really mean it, because that's all that matters. How strong do you stick to your deen, you know? That's the important part.
For sure. How do you strengthen your imam? Do you have a community around you? Do you have Muslim friends around you? Certain scholars that you talk to? How does that look like?
I would say, not scholars, so to say, but I would say what you consume, you become. So, for example, and I realized this at a war room event, actually. There's a gentleman in the Scottish war room who I won't name, but an epiphany hit me. And this was actually just about, no, it wasn't, maybe about a couple months before the Shahada. But he didn't look incredibly wise. He looked like he could, like, fight. But he was the best speaker I've ever interacted with in my life. And I sat there and I went, how is this guy so incredible at orating? Like, when he talks, everyone listens. And this epiphany hit me that it's just like, whatever goes in is what comes out. You know, if you put if you put like bad food in your body, you consume it, the outcome, what comes out of you, is you have a terrible body, you know? So if you only consume goodness, and you only and you refuse forms of haram and poor things that you're consuming, you're only ever going to have a good external result. So my life now, the only people I speak to are guys in the war room, or the Muslims who watch me. I'll speak to guys like you. I don't really listen to music anymore. That's maybe one that sometimes I can flip and flop on, but that's just like because it's hard, you know. But typically I don't really listen to music anymore. So it's very hard for like shaitan to come in and corrupt me, because I don't allow anything bad to come in, and therefore I don't produce anything bad. And it bears great fruits, because I'm telling you now, like if you go on a walk, if you went a week and you controlled your stomach, your reproductive system, you controlled those two sort of consciousnesses, right? You controlled them and you cleaned out what's in your head. You replaced music with books, you replaced Netflix with information. Before you know it, like you're flooded with ideas. You have the lack of distraction to be able to put it into practice, etc. So with regards to abstaining, of course, you need to understand the psychology of how things work. And that takes a lot of time to understand. Like we said before, if you can identify as a person who doesn't do X, then you're not going to do it. But you can't just become that. You have to rewire your head, etc. But again, if you can just control what comes in, then all that will come out will typically be good. So it's like an all-front battle, you know, because if you let one in, so say for example with the Xena thing, right? If I allow myself to listen to music, I might listen to like Pop Smoke, or I might listen to some rap music, or blah 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 blah. Well, now I'm more inclined to want to go take Reba on a car I can't afford because I want to quote unquote flex. Yep. So it's like you kind of have to be strict with everything, because if you give Shaitan an inch, you'll.
Now you're cutting off again, brother. 1, 2, 3. Is he coming back? Is it cutting off? Technical difficulties, dear brothers and sisters, just give us a second. It's the internet connection again. I think he'll be back in a second. Until then, I'm going to read out the super chats. We were discussing what goes into you, what are you consuming. Music, for example, is a big one there, of course. I can attest to that. As a teenager, I used to listen to rap music, and it influenced me pretty badly, to underestimate it here. It was absolutely terrible. I was following into the footsteps of those so-called rappers. But we're going to talk about that in a second. Let me just check out the super chats. Thank you everybody for donating. Thank you so much, guys. Let me see who we got. We got Fatima Abba donated 200 NGN. I don't know the currency, but thank you so much, Fatima.
Oh.
Up, you are back. 1 second, I was just reading the super chats. And we're going to continue with the super chats in a second. Lord Bear is back with us.
I can't find my. Here we go. Here we go. Find the tab.
All good, bro.
I've just connected to my my phone.
Your data, yeah. I have to do that sometimes as well here in Thailand. Today, it's surprisingly good. Yeah, we are stuck at talking about what goes into you, and you mentioned music, for example. I just want to really warn people out there, because when I was a teenager, I was listening to rap music, and it influenced me terribly. It was insane. Now looking back, now I see it, because back then, during that time, for me, there were just two worlds, essentially. There was this mainstream where everybody goes to work, as I said, and then you have the cool rappers that go after the women, they go after the drugs, they live this gangster lifestyle. And I thought that this is a way out of the matrix, so to speak, right? Needless to say, now looking back, you are totally invested into the matrix, you just don't see it. But just by thinking that if I don't pursue a regular average job and do the rap thing, then I'm going to be free. This is why I went after it. And in the end, with that, I ended up consuming drugs, selling drugs, being into violence. Police sued me, whatever, all of those things. And it was all due to music. So if music wasn't there, none of it would have had happened. And therefore, music truly is like a magic spell. Those words are really a spell that are put on the young mind. And that's what we follow. It's unbelievable how impressionate you are as well when you're such a teenager.
Yeah, here's how I would phrase it, because I think music is really overlooked, and I can prove it. So the way music works is, like, again, they have to make you want the sin. They have to make you want the haram. They can't put a gun to your head and force you to do something. They have to it's like karmic retribution. If you do it to yourself, then the onus is on you and not the person who tricked you. So if you look at the culture, right, and I can prove this with how culture has shifted over the past 50 years. So if you look at, for example, the black population in America in the 50s, it was stand by me, everything's great, there was families, great. Then what occurred? Gangster rap comes in. They couldn't go to that black family and tell the woman to get an abortion. They couldn't tell her to do that because she would have rejected it. They couldn't tell the guy to leave the kids and go shoot people and shooting gangs and stuff because he would have rejected it. So what do they do to make you want it? Here comes 50 Cent. Here comes Tupac. Shoot this guy. Shoot this guy. Before you know it, they're doing it. Look at London.
Sure.
London was a civilized, beautiful, architecturally great city, a powerhouse. Then they come along with drill music. Stab this guy, stab that guy. Now it's the stab capital of the world. Women, look at Western women. They couldn't go to a woman in the 50s and tell her, murder your offspring, cheat on your husband, go take pills and be alone when you're 50 and get ran through by strangers. So what do? Cardi B, I'm in the
but
club.
still I got that ring.
Yeah, exactly. They'll give you that. And look at what women are now in the West. Look at the guys, even the guys, man. Yeah. You look at what like the people of my sort of ethnicity used to be. Warriors, Vikings, like freedom fighters. So what do? They couldn't go up to them and be like, you're going to become a corn addict cuck. But what do? Here comes Ed Sheeran. My woman is my God. I drink all the time. I'm sad. She left me. Now I'm crying. And now every guy's a cuck. Yeah. Music's a big one, man. Absolutely. Because it makes you accept the subliminal message. That beat, that rhythm puts you in this hypnotic state where you accept the programming. Yeah. You couldn't do it without it. So music has to be watched out for.
Talking about the Afro-American community there, it's quite interesting when you do a little bit of research, and doesn't take much. It's a Google search ultimately to see who the managers were of Tupac, etc., etc. So just a little hint.
There you go.
They're not Afro-Americans, right?
No, they're not. They're from the Middle East and not Palestine, let's say.
That's quite interesting.
Flaggable.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But, it's absolutely.
You have to watch out for that, man.
Very, very
you have to watch out. Again, there's the analogy I would use just before. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think it's the connection. Sorry, I didn't mean that.
That's cool,
but I use this analogy a lot, and I'm going to use it again. When a farmer wants to control its herd, so a farmer wants to milk a goat, right? And this is you pop this thought into my head when you mentioned who managed Tupac. When a farmer wants to milk a goat, it can't just milk the goat. He can't just go up and milk it because the goat will kick him, it'll run away, it'll get aggressive. So what do? The farmer gives the goat feed. It gives it something it likes, some tasty meal. The goat eats it, and then he can go in and milk while he's distracted. Twitter feed, Instagram feed, TikTok feed, YouTube feed. When you look at these things, they're not giving you these things for free, like all the Tupac music free. They're not giving you this for free because they care about you. They want to send you to Ukraine. Right? They don't care about you. The reason they're giving you that is it's feed, so you will become docile and distracted so they can extract from you what you actually want. If you look at it from economics, right, with the African American community, this isn't like I don't care, it's just like autism sort of thing I have, right? All the music's promoted it buying material things. It's I'm in the whip, but then I shot the spending difference in how the African American community used to purchase things and what they do now. Like they don't have houses, but they have twice as many Mercedes-Benz as the whites in America. When they give you these things, they don't care about you. They want to extract from you. So they give you feed to sedate you and make you docile so they can come in and take what they want. So watch out for that because they do not have your best intentions at heart. They do it for a reason.
It's quite amazing that it's just never ending, right? I put on YouTube and there was a rap video yet again. I don't even know who the artist was. And it was the exact same principle yet again. Dude rapping and girls booty shaking, right? And I was just wondering to myself, wow, that's exactly what I saw when I was 12 years old. And now, 20 years later, it's still the same principle. Nothing really changed, just becomes more vulgar, right? But it's exactly the same. And people don't seem to get enough of it. It's so amazing to see that once you trigger that desire in people, you can always feed them the same rubbish and it will work. McDonald's, it's still open. Burger King is still open. Rap music is still on. They just don't get enough of it. You know, sometimes I'm getting a little bit misanthropic and pessimistic there, and I'm thinking, yeah, obviously the elite, to name them that, will continue with this as long as you just gobble it up. As long as you don't get enough of it, right? And it takes people to wake the masses up, unfortunately, because they don't do it themselves.
It's like a massive, it's like a spider web, this like
Yeah.
demonic system that's set up. Because, for example, like I said earlier with the social media, how they can create a culture which isn't real. And I said this about like Drake the other day, the artist Drake. No man, no living man wants to be Drake, where you're just like, I've got the girls, I'm here, look at me. His hands are like a woman's, like no one wants to be Drake. But what
Yeah.
can they do? Right? They can put a post up on social media, right? Give it 400,000 likes of Drake saying he loves hoes and stuff. They can fill the comments with a bunch of female bot accounts saying, "Oh my God, Drake is the type of guy that I want. I really want Drake." And then young guys like me who want to attract a wife, we go, "Oh, even though none of this is real, it's all synthetic." We'll go on and see, oh, I better act like Drake then. Before you know it, you're this docile FAG. Just, you know what I mean? So it's interesting. But again, these things couldn't occur like McDonald's and stuff. And I say this a lot regarding fiat currency, which is outlawed in Sharia. If you have fiat currency, you can just print as much money as you want to keep these industries afloat. Like, it doesn't. Here's a good example for you. Look at the time in the past 3 years where the whole economy was shut down. Name me a single airline that went out of business. You can't. Why? Because this is what they say about airlines. They say with airlines, if the reason that we have to make the seats smaller and all this stuff is because the margin for error is so low. If we were closed for one day, we'd lose billions because of how expensive everything is. Not a single airline went out of business. And that's because if you have fiat currency, print, stay afloat. The corn industry, completely free, wouldn't make any money because of the server cost. 35% of all internet traffic is corn on the internet. You can't sustain that for free. How do you? How much do you need, Corn Hub? Oh, 10 billion. Federal Reserve, print. There you go. Keep controlling them. It's like a massive complex spider web, but again, no one can make you do it. It doesn't matter. So if you understand, if you can see through the spell and you stick to your deen, they can't hurt you. It's all down to whether you want to do it. And hopefully after watching this, you won't, because you understand how bad it is,
Inshallah.
So yeah.
Brother, you mentioned the war room multiple times now. I want to talk about that. So how did you find out about it, and what is the war room for people that don't know? Because for me personally, I know Andrew Tate is the inventor of it, and that's pretty much all I know. People get together, brainstorm together about ideas. I'm not certain. So please explain it to us. What is it exactly?
It's absolutely fantastic.
As much as you can say,
I think, they'll be fine with what I have to say. In my opinion, in terms of what I've purchased that's high ticket, it's the highest ROI decision I've ever made in my life. Not even close. The fact that, again, like I was saying earlier about Newton's third law of every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So we were just talking about all the problems in the modern world, how easy it is to engage in haram, how propaganda is everywhere. The opposite reaction to that is a guy like me can now be one text away from learning from millionaires, guys like Tate, etc. So for example, it's just your network is your net worth, and you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if you can make the caliber of individual that you network with and surround yourself with, you're going to become a better individual. For example, the gentleman who I won't name because he's quite a big figure, and I don't want to disrespect him, but a guy from the war room is a guy who took me from my shahada. So again, like I go in there and I get a lot of the guys in the Scotland war room are Muslims, and I went, why is that? It's because they stick to their deen, they make a lot of money, But in terms of, because it's quite expensive to join, and I do understand that a lot of people might not have that liquid cash lying around. But if you ever had, say, like a spare 5-10 grand kicking about in US dollars, it's one of the greatest decisions you can make, man. Because for any problem I have, for example, with the social media, I have a problem, servers won't work, I don't know how the legislative side of things are. I'm a text away from some of the best lawyers in the West, Like, it's so fantastic for that. And I don't think Andrew will, I don't know if he'll see this, but I don't think he'll have a problem with me saying this, is that obviously it's not a Muslim network, and there can be haram things. Like, I know a lot of guys have made money from like OnlyFans and things, which personally, like, I understand, like, you might not know. If it's up to me, that's jail stuff. So what I'm going to think of doing, and I spoke with a bunch of the guys in my Telegram, is making a Muslim version of that. Because I think that could be great. Because the Forum is fantastic. I think it's the best network on the face of the earth, bar none. The way it's set up, the education. Like, look at the modern education system, right? 100K to go learn liberal arts studies and how to sodomize yourself at some stupid university. $5,000, and now you're a text away from some of the most influential people on the planet, you know? But of course, there is still, it's not a completely halal organization. It is quite, it is pretty much that. But of course, there is still like, casinos and like all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to look to make sort of a Muslim only one. But in terms of the quality of the Forum, it's absolutely fantastic. Because I've seen a couple hit pieces being made on it. Guys saying they joined and they never became a billionaire overnight, like promised. It's like, no. It's like I would suggest you join, man. It's actually incredible. For example, like we're talking about Dubai. If I want to move my stuff to Dubai, I have no idea where to start. Text, reply, all competent individuals, So again, that had a massive impact on me reverting, because a lot of the guys in there were just Muslim.
That's amazing. And I mean, ultimately, it comes down to you as well. If you engage then with the people that are posting haram stuff or are engaged in haram activities, so you make your own choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, I will say this: since Andrew reverted, it's dying down quite a lot. I don't see it anywhere near as much as I used to. And I think, again, this is what I would say is, and I say this quite a lot, is I would never want to be a leader, but I want to be a good example. And when you become a good example, you typically have people who follow you, And I think what Andrew's doing with his platform, I know he's coming out of the casino industry. I know he stopped drinking alcohol. Yeah, he's coming out of that, because this was my concern with him. But he has my sword now, because I know he's coming out of the casino industry. He's not drank alcohol in ages. He's not promiscuous, I don't believe, anymore. From what I can see when I'm analyzing the previous activity in the Forum to now. So when a guy like him with his platform can show people, I'm willing to sacrifice money, desires for what is right, you can see the fractal effect of that already, that even the guys in the Forum who used to be like doing sort of more haram things, it's dying down very quickly, So again, that's why I always say this to people when it comes to how would you inspire other people to revert? Like my sister, for example, I'd love to see her do it. Inshallah. Inshallah. I can't go to her and tell her to do it. No. I have to be an example. And if I can bear enough fruits and set a good enough example, they'll follow you. Like if you look at the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, right? If he just said things but never did them himself, like he didn't do like all the prosecution he faced, if he didn't act a certain way but told people to do it, no one would listen to him. But it's because his actions were so steadfast and moral and strong and inspiring that they gained all these followers. Like if you look at Jesus, peace be upon him, when he stood in the desert and Shaitan tempted him with all the lands of the world, and he said no. When you act like that as a living man, that's how you change the culture, because people take notice. If you just say it and you try to convince people with your words but without actions, it doesn't work. So like I said, it's beautiful to see that Andrew's now coming off of all these things, and you can see the example he set. Because I like in the Forum, there's nowhere near as much haram as there used to be, and it's very good to see. And I think that's the battle going forward. And I think that's always been the battle, is no matter what's going on around you, how strong do you stick to your deen, Because that's all that matters at the end of the day, in my opinion. I could be wrong, of course, but
No, I would say you're absolutely right. I mean, Islamically speaking, we say that everything is a test, right? So therefore it is a test on your deen. That's literally what it is about. It comes down to you being steadfast in your belief, in worshipping one God alone, and abstaining from your own desires. Have you seen he who has taken his desires as God, right? Being a Muslim is exactly the opposite of that. And therefore, yes, it has always been a test. You're spot on there. And the test just becomes harder, because now in this day and age, it is about a promise of freedom, a promise of just having fun, not taking life too seriously, just living into it. But that is the most deceptive one. because this
Yeah.
liberal agenda ultimately doesn't tell you like a communist or like a dictator what you have to do. It just tells you you can do what you want, which is of course not true. We saw that in the past 3 years you had many restrictions which were
Yeah.
quite totalitarian, but nevertheless it gives you the illusion that you can do exactly what you want and pursue happiness. That is what is being sold to you, but ultimately what you're being fed is demonic, right? You're being absolutely
It is,
trapped,
man.
and it's destroying nations and like that the whole world ultimately, right? Anyways,
Yeah. Man.
brother, all of that being said, I would like to ask you, to the Christian viewers, we didn't really go deep into Christianity. We mentioned that we don't really agree with the Trinity, etc., etc. But what would you say to Christians that believe that Islam is this evil anti-Christ religion? What would you give them on the way? What would you tell them?
You know what? I'm actually going to answer this in an interesting way because, like I said, right, I don't think you can. There's this study that was done that when people are presented with data that contradicts their beliefs, they actually become more steadfast in their beliefs. And like I said earlier, I don't think I could tell, because look at the Trinity, right? Who did Jesus pray to? Did he go sit at the right hand side of himself and return his kingdom back to himself and impregnate Mary with himself to give birth to himself? It's just stupid, right? I'm sorry, I don't want to get too like aggro with that, but it's just stupid. You can't talk to people because they just don't listen anymore. The only way that I could potentially change their mind is if I become an inspiring and morally strong, righteous individual as I can, and they want to be like that. If you become the example, they'll follow you, you know? Because I could go to them and tell them, look, right, who wrote what Bible are we talking about? The King James one, the guy that was like ridiculously sinful, who didn't follow anything he wrote. Paul, 4'6", wrote the new 80% of the New Testament, even though Jesus said, Jesus said there would be no apostles, etc.
Sure.
The word Bible is never mentioned in the Bible. The word Christian's never mentioned in the Bible. The word Trinity is never mentioned in the Bible. If you translate in Aramaic, which is the language Jesus, peace be upon him, spoke, God translates to Allah, right? But I can't tell them this because they'll just reject it. They'll go, how dare you? How dare you? You're trying to hurt me, right? So all I can do is I can set a good enough example, and then maybe they will see, because that's exactly what happened with me. One of the big things with me, man, I'm not going to lie, was when I seen how much false prosecution Muslims have been facing over the past 20 years and how they didn't really retaliate in an aggressive way. Like, could you imagine, because I know we never experienced this, but could you imagine some event where like the 7-Eleven, right? Just that stuff. And then all of a sudden everyone thinks you're a threat. But they still never retaliated. They still defended Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, despite all of this Haram prosecution. That's what really inspired me, because like if they're going to be that strong and set that good an example, that's what inspired me. So I would say for these Christian guys, like, to be fair, I don't mind. Like, if you want to believe in the Trinity and just like dance around that all day, it just means like the competition is lower. You know what I mean? I don't mind. I'm certainly not here I'm not a Captain Save-A-Ho, you know what I mean? But that's what I would say. If you want to change people's opinions, you can't just tell them. You have to back it up with actions and be a light that inspires them. You know what I mean?
Before reverting to Islam, did you try to really look deeply into Christianity? And this is a question for the Christian viewers here, because many say that reverts such as Sneeko, for example, we just did a reaction video on him, they didn't really look into Christianity, they don't understand Christianity, and this is why they accept Islam, because they have no clue about Christianity. So how was it with you? Did you really look deeply into it?
Oh, big time, big time. So I want to show you this because ironically, my laptop is on 2 books at the moment, right? And there's a King James Bible, which I read, right? And that's how I understood Paul and everything. And then above that, and it's about twice the size as the entire Bible, is the 54 out of the 75 banned books by the church, the Apocrypha, which was the books of the Bible that were removed by the Catholic Church. I've tried to read all of them. I don't have them. I have more of them, the books of Enoch here. I have another one, which was, I looked into the Dead Sea Scrolls, all this sort of stuff, right? And I just came to the conclusion, like, who wrote the Bible? I think it was Rome, personally. But this is the thing, they can't even preserve. I'm not attacking Christians, right? Because if you follow the teachings of Jesus, you're going to have a fantastic life. But you can't even preserve your book. King James wrote one. Why couldn't I write one? Why couldn't Drake write one? Drake's no better or worse than King James. Why could he write it? So I have definitely looked into it, and I wish I could. In fact, you know what? I'm going to show you so people know I'm not lying. Here you go. 54 Apocrypha. These are the banned books in the Bible that the church institution banned. And you look at the amount of corruption and the lack of preservation, and then the lack of like any form of law regarding Christianity. It was a look. If you follow the Bible, you're gonna have a great life. I'm certainly not denying that. Which one do you follow is the question. Do you listen to Paul because he contradicted everything Jesus said? It just became you're saved, do as you please. The Trinity. If you're a Christian, please think of this logically. If you make Jesus God and then he was crucified, you're now saying that the divine creator can be killed by a bunch of people from Israel, right? That's what you're saying. You're saying he can just die. Even though he knows the commandments, he created man, he can take the form of man and be killed by man. What do you think that does to a child's head? The crucifixion is another one as well, man. Like, if you're a child and you go into a church, and again, like we were saying earlier, the no idolism, they pray in front of a statue of Jesus, idol. A kid sees Jesus hanging from a cross, dead. Imagine if it wasn't a crucifixion and it was an electric chair, or he was hung. Would people walk around with a noose around their neck? Like, would you walk into a church and Jesus would be hung? Like, think. Why do you think that the Trinity is so pushed, even though it's never mentioned once in the Bible? So critical thinking will get you out of that rut. But again, for Christians who are watching this, I'm not attacking Christians because I have a lot of respect. And I think, like you said at the start, there needs to be a better relationship between Islam and Christians. But, like, watch out for the church institute. I think that's the problem. Here's one: be fruitful and multiply. You go into a Catholic church, the priest can't have kids. Call no man father. You go into the church, you call the priest father. It's contradiction. Yeah. In the Bible, angels were depicted as scary beings with eyes, clockwork like eyes. You go into the Vatican, it's naked children. Ask why. Ask why no one questions this at all. And that's not to say if you follow the teachings of Jesus, peace be upon him, you're not going to have an excellent life. You will. But just watch out for these institutions, man, because I don't trust them at all. I think they're tax shelters. A lot of their money, I looked into this, goes overseas to that country that we mentioned earlier, that Zionism occurs. So, yeah, that's what I would say. If you want to pull them over to Islam, you have to be the light at the end of the tunnel for them, or they're not going to listen to you, because they could listen to anyone.
Well said. The Trinity itself has been established at the First Council of Nicaea. Before that, you had conflicting ideas, right? You had some people claiming Trinity and the majority not. Even at the Council of Nicaea itself, it was a majority decision, but roughly 60% voted Trinity and 40% voted against it. So the point of the story is, it's a bunch of church fathers. Nobody truly knew what Jesus preached anymore, and now they come to the conclusion, okay, we're going to go by majority vote and choose Trinity. Arius at the time was called a heretic because he was preaching that God is one and Jesus Christ was sent by God. That is what we found in the old manuscripts as well, that Jesus was sent by God, not that he was God.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. It's interesting as well, because here's the other one I have, a banned one. This is more Gnostic, but I've read it. It was the Gospel of Thomas, yeah. So I read that, and I think it might have just been in the Bible, actually, that Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you.
Yeah.
Why is every church, quote unquote, the special church? This is the thing I love about Islam. I can go to any mosque I want, and the relationships are the same. We treat each other like brothers. When you go into like the Christian churches, they're always the true church. If you go to any other one, you're now going to hell. It's just contradiction. No one's following the teachings of Jesus.
Which church is the dominant one in Scotland?
I don't think there is one. Cardi B's taken over. I'm being brutally honest. Nightclubs are the main church now.
Sure.
Let's be real.
But theologically speaking,
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't know anyone. I think it's more Protestant. But I don't. I'm not too sure. No one really goes. Like, this is what I was saying earlier. People in the West would defend nightclubs to the death, he wouldn't defend the church. It's interesting.
We had this talk with an Australian Muslim revert as well, and we came to the conclusion that if a Muslim goes to the mosque on Friday, that's an average Muslim. They're just an average Muslim. But if a Christian goes to church on Sunday, he's a really zealous Christian. You would say, hey, this is really practicing, man. This guy is really practicing. He's in church every Sunday.
Yeah.
For Muslims, it's
What did he do the
normal.
night before? What did he do the night before, though? That's the thing. That's a problem as well, in my opinion. So the place that I took my Shahada, if you were to go, is it? I can't remember the last name. Is it Isha, the final prayer of the day? Yeah,
Isha.
I believe so. Yeah. If you were to go do that on a Saturday night, as soon as you come out, there's a nightclub in front of you. So
Right.
things like that is hard. But
Sure.
But yeah, that's the good thing about Islam, is it's proactive. That's why I like the 5 prayers a day, because it keeps you proactive. It stops you, again, in the face of temptation and haram and desires. If you've prayed 5 times a day and something arises, my whole viewpoint changed, where I wasn't being tempted anymore. I would be offended. I'm like, you're telling me I'm going to get up at 2:30 to do that, and then I'm just going to buckle because you something's tempting me. It keeps you grounded, So yeah.
100%, brother. All right, bro. Hey, we've been at it for 2 hours now. Is there anything else you want to add? And after that, I'm going to read out a few super chats. Is there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. I think we've covered a lot today, man. It's been very good. It's been very good.
It's been fantastic.
I think it's went better than I thought. Not just because of my fasting. I thought I would have a hard time articulating.
No, you're dialed in,
things,
man. You're dialed in.
But it went really well.
When I'm fasting, usually I get very, very silent. So when I'm water fasting or something like that, I can't talk at all. So
yeah, I have the opposite, where I just start screaming and swearing. And I'm glad I've managed to tone it down today. But yeah, we should definitely do this again in the future, my man, because I think it's been a great conversation.
Sure,
and
brother,
you're a great guy. I appreciate it a lot.
Likewise, brother. Absolutely, man. And I'm sure once your Dawa gram comes out, we can talk about that again. And please let me know, and I'm going to promote it here, as I said. And we can make some live streams about certain more specific topics in the future,
Yeah, because you've always got to watch out for what you say on YouTube and things like that, which is fair enough. They're a private company. If they want to do that,
house rules, exactly. I'm on Rumble as well, but I don't stream there yet, so maybe someday, inshallah, we'll see.
Yeah, perfect. So we'll keep in touch when that day comes, inshallah.
For sure, brother. I just have here one question for you as well from the super chats by Kushariza, and it's from Malaysia, actually, asking if we will come to Malaysia.
I would consider that. Yeah. So I've been speaking to a lot of people, and Malaysia looks really good, man. Looks really good. I think once Dawagram's up, I'm going to be doing a little crusade around the world for a bit and see how it goes. So Malaysia's somewhere. I got my international driver's permit as well sorted out, so I might do a little touring of Malaysia, because it looks really nice, man. I did look, and I looked into like these statistics and things. It looks really good. So I may come through one day, inshallah.
Malaysia is absolutely amazing. For me, I've been traveling since 2014. 2014, I left Germany. I went to Australia, after that to Indonesia. Then I went to Thailand, and after that to Malaysia, etc., etc. And it was the country that actually changed my perspective on Islam, believe it or not. Because before that, I grew up in Germany. And in Germany, the friends that I had that were Muslim were involved in a lot of criminality, drugs, etc., etc. Like myself, to be totally honest. But I got a very bad impression of Islam. And as I mentioned on the Balkan, the war with the Turks, and then later on the war with the Albanians as well, which are Muslim predominantly. But when I went to Malaysia, it was absolutely amazing, man, because before that I spent some time in Thailand, and I don't have to tell you, there's a lot of degeneracy going on over here.
Yeah.
But when I came over to Malaysia, it was so extremely peaceful and family friendly. I couldn't believe it. I went over there with my then girlfriend, and we went into a park, and there was some sort of celebration. I don't know what it is. And a bunch of families, they were all Muslim, hijabis, they came over, and they invited us to a little picnic to eat with them. And I couldn't believe that Muslims are so friendly, because I simply didn't make that experience before that, For me, it was the very first time. And to see that Islam is so friendly, so welcoming, so peaceful, changed my perspective on Islam. It always stuck with me, And every time I would think of Islam, I would think of Malaysia then, automatically. And that really led me down the path of later on then studying Islam, etc., etc. So Malaysia changed my perspective on Islam forever, And moreover, it's an absolutely amazing country. You have beautiful beaches, you have beautiful halal food, needless to say. And
Don't mention food.
for the connoisseurs amongst you, they have durian as well, which is the so-called stinky, smelly fruit, which I personally enjoy. Amazing.
Yeah,
But highly recommended, man. Honestly,
yeah. I've
Malaysia,
considered it.
Malaysia is like the halal Thailand. Definitely recommend it.
Oh, that's a good way of looking at it, eh? I might consider that then.
It's
Because I've heard a
amazing.
lot of good things, so we'll see it. Like, inshallah, we'll
Inshallah,
see how
check
it
it out.
goes. You know, see how it goes.
Jaguar King donated 55 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much, brother. Says salam, my brothers. So that is addressed to both of us as well. Salam, brother. Thank you very much. And we got Taner Shevketov says as well, Assalamu alaikum, bracha. He says it in Russian, so that is, again, Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Thank you very much. And here's one about the Dawagram by Imran Imtiaz Munshi from Malaysia as well. Says, hope Dawagram has apps on Android and LG TV. Would love if my kids can watch Dawagram consistent instead of YouTube.
So there's going to be a website. There's going to be Android and iOS. That's quite easy to set up. So it should be about 6 weeks. But like you said, for kids, perfect. It's in essence, what it's going to be is it's going to be the largest mosque on the planet, on the internet. In essence, if you look at it that way, unlimited education, no haram, unlimited halal learning, opportunities, inspiration. It'll be fantastic because I think that's a huge area of the world that needs to be conquered back to Islam. So that's what I'm doing.
Amazing.
You know,
may Allah reward you for it, man. That's amazing. We have another one here by Killer Kid, $50. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work, brothers. I was lucky to be born Muslim, but the best of us are always the ones Allah brings back to his religion, subhanallah. Allah knows what is in the heart. May Allah protect us all and keep us on our deen. Allahumma ameen. Amen. Yeah, thank you very much for that. I always get humbled when they say that. You know, they always say reverts are the best of Muslims. I want to live up to that standard, you know. So we are best in the sense of that our sins are wiped away, and then we have to stick to that, you know. So the battle is equal for all of us, and I wouldn't sit too comfortably on knowing that we are now, you know, wiped free from sins. So it's still a struggle, and we always have to work on that.
Yeah, 100%. It gives me, no, it doesn't give me this, but I have this intrinsic reaction to that sometimes, and it's my fault, where I get kind of like an imposter syndrome because I don't want to seem disrespectful. You know, when you come in and people have been living like this forever and you get all this praise, sometimes I get thingied by that, but I know what you mean 100%. I think it's just because we've experienced the alternative, and that's how we were raised. So we're so, it's like hard times create strong men. Yeah. We're so steadfast against that because we've experienced it, you know?
Sure. Actually, you mentioning this, by imposter syndrome, do you still get that sometimes when you go to the mosque? Do you have imposter syndrome? Because I have that sometimes.
Not really. I think my tattoos don't help, like, because I'm covered in them. Sometimes, and I kind of look like I should be like in a boy band or something, so I do look a bit odd. But most of the time, not really. Not really. Everyone's really welcoming. In fact, it kind of has the opposite effect, where people are drawn towards you because they're like, what is this? What is this thing? You know, so not really. It's more the imposter syndrome comes from praise, I would say. But I this is another thing that I changed my perspective on, is with regards to my comment section, 99.9 are positive, and then there's like a 0.1%, which is like, you're going to hell, Jesus is God, right? But the only way that I end up seeing them, and it annoys me, and I allow it in my head, is if I go to check the praise. It's like, I think praise and pride and fear are just two wings of the same bird, which is flying. Absolutely. It's flying in a way that will distract you away from what you actually need to focus on, you know. So I try not to pay a terrific amount of attention. And that's not, I don't mean that to be rude. It's more, I don't want things getting in my head and planting seeds which aren't fruitful, you know?
No, you're absolutely right on that one. I hate it as well. When I get praised, your ego gets ultimately triggered, and you see that identification part as well, because everybody likes praise, or your ego likes praise, and every time they do that, that happens, and then you get out of your clean state of consciousness, if you will. But why I get imposter syndrome is because when I'm here in Bangkok, we have whole Arabic sections, you know, and everybody always greets me with Salamu Alaikum, even before I converted. and then they speak Arabic to me because of my beard. They expect me to speak Arabic as well.
Yeah.
That's when I get
That's
imposter
what-
syndrome, you know.
No, I'm actually learning Arabic at the moment. Every Sunday, someone's teaching me it.
Same here, brother.
Very
Me
difficult
too.
though.
Me too.
I
On
didn't
Sunday,
even,
yeah.
I didn't even realize. Yeah, I didn't even realize it goes right to left instead of left to right, and all the different dialects and stuff. So, but I think that's a good skill to learn. But I totally get what you mean. But mine's just far more just visual, you know.
Sure.
Because it's like it's kind of, I don't know, like Justin Bieber goes Sharia law. It's kind of weird, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, though. It's all the intention of the person, eh?
Sure. We have another super chat by Zfo, 50 Egyptian something. I'm not too sure what this is. A little question for Lord Bear. Is Dawagram going to have music in ads, or is it going to be completely music free even in the ads?
I haven't decided yet. I don't know. Probably not. It's a hard one, you know, because I'm like, if someone makes a video of a wedding and it has like piano behind it,
okay,
and it's nice, I'm gonna have a hard time kicking that out. But it's more if someone tries to post a video where they're like sitting on the front of a BMW with 50 Cent blazing out.
Sure.
The majority of music will be banned because I think it is a mind control sort of thing. But there's going to be instances where it'll be hard, but I don't know where to draw the line yet. That's something I'm going to have to decide in the next few weeks. I don't know, because the TOCs have to get written up and everything, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a delicate subject. I personally, I mean, you saw it maybe in the beginning. I still have my intro playing, so this is something that I'm working on as well. I haven't banned it yet.
Yeah.
Because the intro is just, like a retro wave instrumental thing. I'm not thinking much of it, you know. It's simply the intro to my channel, and there is nothing that will lead you to Haram. You know, that's how I see it at the moment.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm not yet.
It's an interesting one because there is forms of music. Yeah, there is forms of music that are really harmonious that uplift you in a good way, and I don't know where to draw the line. So I'm going to require some counselling on that. Maybe I'll get the Council of Nicaea to come help me make that decision. So we'll see when it comes in.
For sure. We have another one by Maher Al Masri, donated $7. Thank you very much. The best as in research, studied and convinced before reverting, while someone born Muslim is taking it for granted. Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, I get that. I do understand that completely. But that's fine. Again, I just think that's kind of our calling is. We've experienced what happens when you get complacent. And we don't want to go back to it ever because it gets bad, you know?
Yep. We saw that, man. Absolutely. What else we got? Gmfax says, we appreciate what you do for our new generation. I think that's directed towards you.
Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated. You know, mashallah. I hope to do the same in the future and not get straight off the path, which I really don't think is going to occur because I've exalted everything I could have wanted to in that path, and it leads to nowhere but hell. So yeah, well, inshallah, we'll hopefully stay on that path and keep going.
Inshallah. Shaitan is working overtime. Indeed, donated $5, and he's quoting the Quran. And who is better in speech than the one who invites to Allah and does righteousness and says, indeed, I am of the Muslims. I mean, beautiful. And I think that's about it. Yeah, I think so. I hope I didn't miss anything. I'm going to double check in the end one more time, but I think that's it for now. Alright, thank you very much, guys. For the super chats. Alright, brother, we are through with the super chats. I think we
Well, it was a pleasure.
It was a
pleasure, my man.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah, 100%. We'll get. I can't have anyone on my YouTube because I'll just get banned instantly. I've got one strike left, which is a problem. So we'll definitely do this in the future, maybe in like a month or so, because it's been a pleasure, and I think there's lots more we can talk about, man.
Taper it down, play by the rules, so we can still see you here on YouTube. Keep the rest
for
other
platforms.
You know?
Yeah, 100%. So
I had to do that too, man. I had to remove so many videos of mine. It's unbelievable. I think it's fair to say 30% or so. Especially during the last couple of years, I was very vocal about this whole thing, you know. And
same. That's what got me as well. That's what got me as well.
Right away, they all got deleted. I got 2 strikes as well. But now they're removed. You know, I'm quiet. I'm playing by the rules. You have to do what you have to do.
Did they go away?
They go away after I think 3 months or so. I'm not too sure. Stay strong.
Yeah,
And then you can redirect the people always. You know, you can use this as a PC platform and then redirect them to Rumble, Telegram,
yeah,
etc., etc.
Telegram.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, no, 100%. I'll come back on in the future. It was a pleasure, brother. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure having you on, brother. All right, man. Then, until next time, Assalamu alaikum, brother.
See you in a bit, my man. Take care, everybody.
Take care, everybody. All right. There we go. Should we rate this? It was fantastic. Let's give it 4 stars. All right, guys. And that was it for today's live stream. That was absolutely amazing. As I said, for me, it was absolutely mind-blowing to see that somebody in his 20s gets to those realizations, because I can only talk about my own experience. When I was 20, I was definitely in a totally different mindset, and I wasn't thinking about the bigger picture. I was still entrapped in my own pleasures, etc., etc. So it was quite amazing to see somebody this young so awake to what is going on. It's absolutely fantastic. And for me personally, it gives me hope as well for the future to see that we have people like this in this generation, because I thought they're going to be all soy boys, and thank God that is not the case. Anyways, thank you very much. Now I'm going to jump back into the super chats. Unfortunately, we didn't have too many questions for Lord Bear here in the end. As I said in the beginning, if you don't do it via super chat or Streamlabs donation, we cannot answer them, because you saw we had 1,000 people watching, and yeah, therefore we had a bunch of questions that I could not see. Anyhow, let me adjust this camera here. Fantastic. Now let me double check here so I didn't miss anything. I believe I answered all of them, but just to make sure. And if I did, let me know in the chat as well that I did. Okay. I appreciate it. Thanks. Evan donated $3. Thank you very much. Says thanks for the content. Thank you for supporting. And I believe that's it. That was the only one that I missed. No, there's another one by Otman. $10. Thank you very much. Have you ever watched videos of Sheikh Imran al-Hussein? He is for uniting Orthodox Christianity with Islam. As a Muslim myself, I want to restrain myself from critiquing our brothers in Islam. So therefore, I'm just going to say, yes, the Orthodox Christian friendship there, I saw some videos, and he's doing good work there. However, politically speaking, I saw him talk about certain subjects that are concerning my own country, Northern Macedonia, and I heavily disagree. So therefore, yeah, not all of his opinions I can agree with. But when it comes down to the friendship between Orthodox Christians and Muslims, 100%. Okay, and I believe this is it. Must be. Alright guys, this is it. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to tune out. It's time to eat something. Lord Bear is just going to drink water today. But for me, after Ramadan, I'm recovering. Little side note for people wondering. And we have Zoom party host Omar. Soon we're going to talk, brother. Nice to see you guys. We'll talk this week, inshallah. Inshallah. We're going to be on a Zoom party with Umar soon. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, anyways, people were wondering, my health was suffering quite a bit. Ramadan helped a lot. Becoming Muslim helped even more, alhamdulillah. And after that, I went onto a carnivore/keto diet for the past month. And with that, I was able to return to jiu-jitsu. Not yet the gym, but I'm rolling again, thank God. And so therefore, it seems to get better, inshallah. Anyways, we have one more super chat, and then I'm going to tune out, guys, by Haitham Medather. What is your view on Palestine? Free Palestine, obviously. What else? And the rest, as we said throughout the stream, cannot really be discussed, you know? As much as I can say here, that is all I can restrict myself to. That is that. All right, guys. Thank you very much for the support today. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, may God bless you all. Much love and peace.